Deferred.
Thank you.
All right. I won't need it much,
You ready?
because he has it, right? I won't need it much. Whoops.
September 9th meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon,
Present.
Councilman Farkas,
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber,
Present.
Councilman Legati,
Here.
Councilman Mayor,
Here.
Councilman Revelinsky.
Here.
The mayor is absent. Council President, we have 6 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that the adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on January 10, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. We will dispense with items 4 and 5 until the regular meeting, and we'll move on for items for discussion. It's been requested that we reverse the order of the discussions, and we're going to hear from the engineering, miscellaneous engineering items first.
Yes, Mr. President, just a few items tonight with you. As the mayor and council may be aware, unfortunately, last Tuesday, the borough's utility operator contacted our office, and unfortunately, it appears that you have a break in your force main somewhere between the Church Street pumping station and East Church Street. Just to give you some history on this line, I have some photographs I'm going to send around and pass around to the council. It's a little hard to see with the dark here, but it basically gives you some ideas, there you go, of where we are. This force main was constructed somewhere in the early 1900s, 1910 era, something like that. And it was a cast iron pipe that was installed, probably steam shovels back at that time. And what it did was to allow the borough to pump your wastewater from what was earlier a discharge into the brook into the New Brunswick sewer system. And at the time, as I understand it, probably even before my time, if somebody's going to believe that, the Milltown's waste went into the brook. New Brunswick was drawing their water out of the brook, and obviously they didn't want the sewer in the water. Everybody recognized at that time that wasn't a good idea. And so that New Brunswick said, listen, if you will eliminate your sewer discharge, we'll take your sewer for you. And that was like that for many, many years. Back in 1978, 75, 78, 80, before my time actually, one of my partners, because of deterioration on the force main, and that occurred probably, it's about 50 years after it was installed, which is about the useful life that they expected with some cast iron. You have to understand too that this pumping station, because it pumps so far and the vertical distance that it has to lift the wastewater up, the pressure coming out of the pumping station sometimes between 100 and 120 pounds per square inch. That's a very high pressure pipe. So what happens is that where the pipe comes out of the station, that's where it takes the hardest or the highest amount of pressure. I don't want to bore you with a lot of engineering things, but I think it's important to know, at least in peripheral. As it starts to head towards the Brunswick, the pressure starts to drop and there's less wear and tear in the pipe. So what the Borough Council at the time decided to do is to insert a liner inside the pipe from Church Street pump through and to about Our Lady of Lourdes Church. And that liner was made of fiberglass. It was one of those first time projects where, you know, the liners were used to try and extend the life of the pipe. It was pulled and pushed through the line and finally got in, and it was ended at the Our Lady of Lourdes Church, which the bulk of the pressure was beginning to drop off at that point. When the new pump station was constructed about 20, 25 years ago, we tied into that old force main, and that's been there since that time. On Tuesday, water was emanating from, and you'll see in some of the pictures of the yard, was emanating from in and around the yard, not at Church Street, but down near where the pumping station is. And partially because of the way the grading is there, Church Street is probably 10 feet or so higher than where the pump station sits. It's in a low area where all pumping stations are because that's where the waste generally goes by gravity. So it took a while for everyone to figure out where the break is. The break right now, we believe you might have 2, but we believe the largest break is at the intersection of the pipe on East Church Street when your force main comes up and ties into it. And that's a complication which has run into, and you'll see some of the excavations of the contractor trying to locate the break. And because you're getting wastewater emanating down at the pump station 30 feet away, you don't expect to find a break, up at the top of the hill. But when you look at hydraulics, you begin to realize very quickly that the break is coming from high end. So on Friday night, we tried to come up with an interim solution, something that would buy you some time with regard to a large expense of making this new connection. Unfortunately, the break is in an area where you have wastewater coming through the ground and going above the ground. And you'll see one of the pictures we provided in the back there, there's a detail of a stone bedding for a pipe. And that shows you how what happens is the flow is coming out of the portion near Church Street. It's following the pipe trench and draining, and that's how it's getting down at the bottom area. So after much deliberation, we spent time Saturday and time Sunday to try and come up with a recommended solution. We worked with the contractor, and we have a scheme to go through and repair it. And it basically calls for a construction of what's called a line stop. A line stop is a fitting we can install on the pipe and make it so that we can tap a new pipe into it, eliminating the break area, eliminating the old section which is deteriorated, and basically coming right around it. Bypass is complicated because as we're doing our work, we have to keep the wastewater leaving the pumping station and leaving town. Otherwise, we're going to have a major problem down there. So this device, it's a fairly new piece of product that wasn't available 25 years ago, but it allows us to tap the main, shut the valve, and then bypass through the top of the fitting. What that allows us to do is put that line stop in, and then when that is on, then we can do our work. So that is a very expensive item. The contractor has estimated, and really on these emergency projects, what happens is that you're hunting and pecking because you don't know everything you're into. So he's given the borough an estimate tonight, and we asked him, we told him on Friday that we needed to come up to the mayor and council tonight and come up with approximate numbers. So they gave us an order of magnitude number, and keeping in mind he spent time there already because he was there Tuesday through Friday, and then even we had to call him in Saturday, and he was in this morning, I believe. So you probably have somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000 incurred already, and he estimates around $200,000. So low side, you're probably looking at 300, maybe to 500 by the time you're done here. So, I'd rather not be the messenger tonight, but I think that it was important for us to come. I had conversations with the administrator and obviously John Eckert to at least tell you where we are. Unfortunately, the alternatives for fixing this would be to completely replace your force main around this. The problem with that, though, is it's probably going to be, it could be even more than twice that because you've got a pipe and you need probably a larger size 16-inch pipe. You've got sewer and stormwater and gas main and potable water and sanitary sewer in the air, which is all adding to the complications there. So we believe this is the least costly alternative. It will not require that you come back to this. I don't have to tell you it's going to last 100 years, but these are permanent replacements. And how you proceed with your force main after this is certainly up to you. But this is intended to last for the reasonable time that these fittings and pipes last. So, but we've dealt with the contractor before. The particular project manager on it is knowledgeable of these fittings. We have to keep in mind we have a liner inside the old cast iron, so we have to somehow break out the cast iron and then attach to the old fiberglass carrier pipe inside, which is a piece of pipe that's not normally used in the sewer industry anymore. At that time, there was fiberglass pipe was thought to be a good alternative, but because of various problems with fiberglass pipe, it's not something that we see. The ductile iron has been used more heavily. We use fiber reinforced plastic. We use PVC, but fiberglass pipe, not so much. Connecting to it was difficult. And one of the challenges the contractors have when we keep in mind we have a pipe inside a pipe, and we have to take the old cast iron off without damaging the carrier pipe. So it almost has to be like a doctor removes a cast from a broken arm with one of those saws that doesn't go too deep and leaves the carrier pipe intact. And then with that, then hopefully that pipe is smooth enough that we can attach a clamp to it and a fitting. If not, we're going to have to weld a flange on top of the fibers onto the fibers and then put a flange piece of pipe on the ground. So as you can imagine, this is not normal repair. There's probably 4 or 5 locations where the force main can break. This is probably one of the 5 worst. Certainly anything under your highway would be another one where you go Route 1. But this is, you know, it's not a, I wish it would, a main line break is not better, but it's a little easier to fix than this.
What's the status of it now, Mike? The leak? Excuse
Right
me.
now, this wastewater continues to leak. We have it controlled to some extent by pumps. One is a gravity connection to your existing sewer manhole, but that's only temporary. The other location, we have sumps down at the bottom pumping station, because keep in mind, the waste doesn't stay at Church Street. It flows downhill to the pumping station, and it's being contained. Okay? We had a problem this morning. John called me, and we had the contractor out again, and we're going to try and contain it by tomorrow. We should hopefully have it bypassed.
So the figure that you gave of the cost is just the repair, that's not the emergency?
No,
from,
we had estimated today that you probably somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000 already, just with labor and parts and materials so far.
from Tuesday till today
right.
to fix is around, at least around, what?
Just what the cost incurred so far, doesn't include
Yeah,
the
because
fix.
I believe they were on overnight watch too, right?
I think one night we had them overnight, and then we came up with this alternative way of trying to eliminate the manpower during the nighttime. One thing, by the way, he's indicated he's going to hold his prices. He had a contract with the borough. He's indicated he's going to hold those prices. So I think that's going to help with regard to what you've incurred so far. With the new things, this new device, he's got to bring a contract. This line stop is not something he does. He has a contract. He's going to bring a company called Garrison to do that.
Forgive me for being a little naive or anything like that, but I'll maybe use the analogy of sometimes when we get streets milled and paved, the county comes in and gives us a better price than what private companies were going to do. Is that even a consideration here? Is the county able to help us in any way with this kind of a?
Good question. The county has road departments that don't really do wastewater or piping work. This is if you said that there's various different utility contractors, this is on the upper edge of someone knowing what they're doing. There's all kinds of pipe work contractors, but you really need to know what you're doing. The county does not have personnel that do this kind of thing.
Thank you.
What's the timeline for getting any repairs done?
If you folks give us the right direction, I'm gonna go in between the meetings and call the contractor, because really, we're in a situation where we have to control this break. It's just getting worse. I can tell you, since the first time I was there, it continues to worsen. So we'd like to have them there first thing tomorrow morning and beginning to get this work cleaned up.
Mike, when we spoke on Saturday or Sunday, there was an anticipated lead time for the special connection to go back to fiberglass. Have they secured that?
Yeah.
They've gotten their price already, so they're ready to rock and roll once we give them the go-ahead?
We actually found the pipe manufacturer and a local supplier of the fiberglass pipes still in business, believe it or not. And the fitting, if we have to go that way, is available. And the difficulty, and Rich, you know from doing this work, and you too, Randy, you have to get down in the hole to put the flange on, unfortunately. Usually you do it above ground, but because our pipe's in the ground, we have to get all the equipment down inside and build an access for them. We're gonna try and do it with almost like a dresser coupling, but the problem with the dresser coupling is if that pipe's wall is not smooth on the outside, we won't get a seal there.
So we've got, just to run through some of the costs quickly, that special fitting is probably what, around 16,000 or so?
Yeah, we've estimated, actually, we ran our own estimate parallel to his and came up with a higher number. He gave us, I wouldn't give him our number, but we figured about $30,000 just for the line stop.
For the line stop?
Yeah, just for the line stop. Because remember, he has got to build a foundation. He's got to build a thrust collar, because once you put the line stop in, you have to restrain it, otherwise it'll blow right off. So it takes time to do that. Then he's got to put the fitting in. He's got to come back. So Garrison has probably got a big portion of the work.
Do we have any estimate as far as, or have we considered bypass pumping in the meantime? I know last time we had a force main break, we had a company come in that was sucking out of the wet well. North Brunswick was kind enough to let us dump into their wet well across town to decrease the travel distance, so we can continue to receive flow from the residents, but as well as get rid of it. So I'm just thinking, would that facilitate in doing the work, and have we given that any consideration or contacted anyone?
His price includes bypass pumping. So what happens right now, we have the wastewater contained. When he gets the fitting in, we will then pipe from the bypass fitting at the new pumping station into the top of the line stop.
Right.
And then he can do the work, taking out all the other equipment and removing the old pipe, solving all the other problems, putting the thrust blocks in, and then we can disconnect the and reconnect the new pipe, and then disconnect the bypass and run under the pipe.
And this work is anticipated to occur during the day, or are we
During the
doing it
day.
at night when there's low flow?
During the day right now. We're trying to minimize the cost. It's a 24-hour work. I can tell you after being involved in too much, well, sometimes you absolutely have to, but your productivity is so low, because sometimes the contractors work double shifts, and I really, if we have to, we have to, but right now, he believes he can do it, and we think if he follows the procedure that we all worked out, he should be able to do it without really minimizing the nighttime work.
Actually, I have a question, but first, Deanna, come sit down, because I know I see you sitting there. So come sit down, your legs are gonna hurt from standing back there. Jeanette,
Yes.
how are we gonna pay for this?
We're gonna have to bond for it. We won't be paying for it out of the operating budget.
Do we have any money in the operating budget, or did that all go across the street?
So, I don't know what you mean by that, but we don't have 300 to 500,000 just sitting in the account that can be used to support this. So, we'll have to do what's called an emergency appropriation and then do, a bond ordinance to pay it over time.
And what's the 10 years on that, 20 years?
I think it's gonna be 15, we're still working out the details, because we just got the numbers, earlier today, so I've been working that out with Mr. Stankiewicz.
So, once again, we pull out the old Milltown credit card and charge her up again. But having said that, how much money do we budget for emergencies?
I don't have that number handy, I think maybe 100,000,
Okay.
but that's just off the top of my head.
And that's in the water sewer fund?
Yes,
So that the repairs would come out of there and would be only bonding for the,
well, the problem with doing that, if you're gonna bond, you should probably bond for the whole thing, and
so you can bond for the emergency?
yes, because it's
okay.
that's what the information, the advice that I had been given so far, but we're still, so if we could, my recommendation probably would be to do that, because if something else happens, this year, we won't have any,
Okay.
we'll be depleted, so,
Only if something happens for less than $100,000.
well, there you go.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
What's the risk of disruption of the service while they're doing this work, Mike?
Well, right now, the break is contained, and as long as that continues, there should be little to no effect to the residents. I mean, obviously, that's one of our major concerns. A break now would place a lot of wastewater down in the lower pumping station area, eventually cause a problem by the building. So we're doing everything we can so that doesn't happen, and that's why we're hoping to get your direction tonight and begin work tomorrow.
And just so the people know, when you say, if it gets worse, then you could, and we talk about disruption of service, what does that mean to the average homeowner?
Well, what would happen is we'd have to bring in, wastewater flows typically don't stop. They enter the system at all times. The flow keeps coming, so what would happen is you'd have to turn your pumping station off, you'd have an overflow situation down there until you could get a bypass pump in your wet well, and then pump around the excavation or the break to a holding truck and then move it like you have when you had breaks before. So it's not impossible, but there'll be a time where you have wastewater basically overflowing your pumping station.
And then, well, how does that affect the rest of the system? Like, how does it affect an individual home? You go to flush your toilet and nothing happened?
No, you wouldn't even know. Residents will not know.
So it's just it's a disaster at the
It's a
pumping
disaster
station?
pump station, right? And, the DEP has to be called, there's potential consequences with the state if you don't correct this, but they do recognize it. Believe me, you're not the only one in the state of New Jersey going through these types of things. You have an old system. When you talk about early 1900s, you're not the only one with these facilities that are having problems. I can tell you because we're involved in them. We're involved in a project right now underneath the light rail in Hudson County, and you have, I don't want to tell you your problems are minor compared to those, but it doesn't help you any. But no, what happens with wastewater, it's not like a water system. You'd have no service. You can still flush your facilities, but we wind up with it in a very bad place.
Thank you.
What's the, I'm sorry if you answered this already, Mike. we say, yeah, you gotta fix it, could do what we gotta do, you know, blah, blah, blah. You said you're gonna get on the phone in the middle of the meeting. What's the time frame to fix this?
We think 8 to 10 days.
Mike, can I ask a different question here? I know we're into, is it Montana for 50 to 100,000 already? Is it worth getting another company in to say, what's your price on doing this? You know, a comparable company that is knowledgeable and would know how to do it, is it worth getting estimates, or is Montana probably the best price we're gonna get?
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that's the best price. Sometimes you'll get less costly. My experience is you usually don't. Usually the contractor that's in there gives you the best price, but it's not always the case. You know, I don't know that you have the luxury of waiting, but certainly if that's your decision, where we'll have a contractor after tomorrow give you a price. But my thoughts are, when you bid out your emergency contract, you award it to Montana. I'm not sure whether that contract's expired or not, but you had other contractors in there that have worked for you. And one of the reasons you have these emergency contracts is that when you have a problem, you bring that contractor in. He has certain rates, and he's agreed to verbally with me today to hold those rates, which I think is a big difference, because you're paying, I think the cost for a man a day was, or per hour is $300. Well, on an emergency contract, you're paying more than that. So I think that that's a benefit to you, but I can't tell you that I can't find another contract. There's not many more that could do this kind of work. You have a couple that we can call in, but this is a very intricate operation. If you know the right guy, you can have a real problem there. I mean, if there's a break, the wastewater will go 200 feet in the air. That's how much pressure you got coming out of the pipe there. And that's a long way in, long out.
I was, you know, thinking if there was, I don't know, a 10% plus or minus, it would be worth going out. But if you're below a 10% plus or minus either way, I would consider just staying with whoever put, you know, 20% of the work in already.
I think because you have this contract and they've agreed to hold those prices, I think you probably got the best prices you're gonna get.
And it's also, I'm sorry, Nick, I don't mean to
No,
interrupt.
go ahead.
It's also a time and materials work. I mean, he's estimating it's gonna take that much,
That's right.
but it may not, or he may run into issues out there that are gonna take longer.
That's why the 300 to 500 range, when I talked to your administrator, I think that's a reasonable number. We're gonna keep it to as low as possible, obviously. And, you know, we have John Eckert there from your office, from your folks. I'm gonna have one guy there. We're gonna do our best to keep the cost down. That's, you know, we understand what the impact is to the borough. And we recognize that we're sensitive to it.
Do you have any figures on how many times we've repaired breaks on the main in, say, the last 5 years?
I would say this is third or fourth one. You had an air release valve problem not too long ago. You had 2 on Milltown Road. I think this would be the third or fourth one. Or actually the fourth one.
So, yeah, because I remember speaking to you and you said the Milltown Road spot was the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
That really would probably be the first part that needed to be addressed, correct?
That's right, because that's the unlined section and probably gets the most traffic.
So, and this one was totally unforeseen.
This is unforeseen, yeah. This is a break in it's really the worst spot, one of the worst spots.
So,
And we're, sorry,
oh, no, go ahead.
and we're chalking this up to being an old pipe and an old system.
Yeah, as I said, and not to make any worse on you, even the new stuff in 78 is getting old. You know, liners at 40 years, I mean, you start to get to the edge of where they were expected to last. Your pipe now is over 100 years old, approaching 120 years, the carrier pipes. So, you know, in the old adage, you got your money's worth, you did. But as I've said to somebody today, when they put these facilities in, they expected them to last 50 years, but they never thought about what they do in 50 years. Or 100 years, how they would replace all these facilities. And unfortunately, that's what we're all faced with. Not only Milltown, many of the other towns have similar problems throughout New Jersey. So I wish I had better news for you, but the old pipes are starting to give. And, you know, you'd be surprised how the outer soils eat the pipe from the outside in. Sometimes the chemicals and the sulfuric acid on the inside eats the pipe from the inside out. You know, you have a system of wastewater which is very complex, and 50 years is a good long time, but as we all know, 50 years isn't long enough. As engineers, we're all being challenged to design things that last 100 years now, and it's a big challenge, and it's more cost up front for folks, but Nobody wants to hear, millions of dollars every 50 years. It's not in the cards.
So Mike, the 300 to 500 repair, is that going to do that whole East Church Street area, or that's just specifically to fix the breaking point?
Just to fix where the break is, right?
So was there any discussion of looking at it from the Church Street station up to where it ties into the street and get a price for that, so you could at least have a new section?
We did, but we think the cost would be twice the amount. Because remember, you have to get back into the force main anyway. It was the same question we had. Well, maybe we can replace and put the new force main in, and then we don't have to worry about this later on.
Right.
But there's a limitation on space is one thing. It can be done later on with one new project when you do it, but you have to break into the force main. One of the things we're gonna do is have a fitting that you can bypass to when you do your new force main, when and if you do it. And that's one thing that comes out of this. So it's not complete loss. And that fitting in itself, so I told Rich, is $30,000, but the manpower to locate it and find it is all built into the $187,000 he gave you the price. So it will save you money in the long run later on. It's not all being thrown away.
And the full force main is still around 12 million?
As we reported, in the $12 million range, that's right.
Okay. And that's been in the capital plan and on the master plan for at least 10 years, correct?
It's been discussed for, for a long time. Before my time, in 1978, it was discussed, it's that far
Right.
back. It's a long, long time.
Well, it's funny because I looked at the master plan and it said in 2009, because I think we're rechecking it, that it was due to be replaced.
Yeah. So it's a size problem and also just age, right?
Well, I know we met on this last year too. We looked at 3 different options,
That's right.
one of which that included going away from New Brunswick and how we could possibly partner up with neighboring towns if they had additional capacity needs for their developments, that it would help us share some of the costs.
Right.
We also have Ford Avenue, that once the final number on the number of units is determined by the court and all that is settled upon, whether or not we'll have to upsize it, and that developer would have his fair share contribution. So trying to lighten the load on how much we as the borough would have to take on, and I can understand it. It just seems like, unfortunately, with the way things go, we're starting to really outlive our livelihood on this force main. I do think it's important to show, though, that where we think the leak is now, or we've identified approximately where it is after where the work stopped from when we built the pump station.
That's right.
Several years ago. What was it, 25 years ago now?
It's just about 25
We
years.
built the new pump station, had the force main come out and go up the street to Church Street, up the service road there from the pump station to Church Street, and it seems that that's where it is. So
Yeah.
at least the newer stuff that we installed isn't necessarily failing, it's the
old.
items after that.
Yeah, that's right.
Janet, I have one more question. Due to our lack of reserved funds, do you anticipate another rate increase to pay for this?
The answer to that is unknown.
When would
We
we know
won't
that?
know until all the numbers are in place.
So that's gonna be relatively soon, I would imagine.
Well, once the repair is done, once we do the financing, then we'll start working on the budget for next year, then we'll know where we're at.
Okay?
Is, Gina, I know the last times we tried, and I don't think it applied for JIF, but out of our insurance fund, do we have anything available in insurance to go back to and say we have these sorts of emergencies?
I can make an inquiry. I don't know that they would cover that, but I could certainly ask.
Did we do it the previous times?
I'm not aware of JIF ever covering
Yeah,
breaks like this.
Right.
Yeah, I believe we inquired, but that was for the breaks that were further down. This one's a little bit more catastrophic, I think, to operations and the cost-wise.
yeah.
It's not a simple, 8-hour repair procedure.
I'll inquire.
Any other questions of the engineer? If not, we'll move on to discussion regarding monthly billing for water and sewer, and I believe that's Councilman Reynolds.
Thank you.
Yeah, it helps that one, to be seen a little bit better. I think so. Probably should have on the camera better. So tonight, we have a presentation on what I call the rate equalization plan to try and help cover the disparity between folks with the billing cycles. So this presentation is going to go through some of the aspects of how we currently do our billing, how our billing is broken up into cycles, and then what cycles get billed when per quarter, and some of the issues that we face even trying to budget or account for things appropriately and really get ourselves on sounder financial ground. The other benefit too is that because of the cycling system that we have in place currently, some residents pay for higher demand months all in one bill, whereas others it's broken up. And we'll get into that. The other benefit too is that it should place some ease for the residents. Oh, I have to look into that, Cameron? Okay. It should place some ease for the residents on budgeting themselves within their households so that you're not getting socked after 3 months with a bill where you haven't been going downstairs and checking your water meter every week to see how much water you're using, but you can help estimate within the household. So, my assistant's not here. I'll hit the button myself. There we go.
Rich, you can flip the laptop towards you if it's easier, as long as you don't.
I just
Yeah,
don't
the blue
want
one.
to disconnect anything.
Yeah.
So, overview of the resolution that we have proposed for tonight is that it proposes moving from quarterly billing, which is our current standard, to monthly billing for both water and sewer. The resolution proposes no current change to the water sewage usage rates, the dollars per gallon that residents are charged, and it's intended to commit the borough to providing monthly water sewer billing in similar fashion to most privately operated and owned utilities, and in similar fashion to the way we operate our electric. Why? The big question, why? Benefits to providing monthly billing in lieu of quarterly billing. I've kind of gone over a little bit here already, but the greatest of all is to provide the borough and borough residents with more precise data to anticipate costs and facilitate planning. By improving our ability to forecast increases in costs of operation and plan for improvements, the data generated by monthly billing or by quarterly billing leaves much guesswork to setting and implementing the appropriate water sewer utility rates. And by that, if you remember last year, or was it last year that we had the increase of approximately 30% in the water sewer rates? The way those numbers were generated was we had to look at 2 years of data and bills and see what exactly people were using and continuously plug in different numbers to try and make up the shortfall that was within the budget there. As well as an attempt to try and start generating some additional surplus for projects and emergencies when they do come up. So it makes it very difficult because you never get a clear snapshot of the system all at once. But this will further allow residents to budget and plan accordingly for water and sewer bills. So the benefits again to the residents and water consumers, it improves service to our residents. If you have a question about your bill or you think something's leaking, you can easily identify it on a monthly basis rather than waiting 3 months and getting an astronomical bill and trying to figure out what happened or what went wrong. That'll also help you facilitate your household budgeting. It'll help reduce the unanswerable questions regarding your bills. So I don't understand why my bill's so high. We check the meter. It checks that we are billing you for the appropriate reading. But lo and behold, you forgot that when you went away for a week and you left the hose on out back, that's the ticket. That's the thing that generated such a high bill that you typically wouldn't have seen. So it really helps the residents address and identify issues within their home as well. For the borough, we identify and address operational deficiencies, account for unaccountable water. That seems quite tricky, but unaccountable water is simply water not billed for. Currently, most of the facilities that the borough has, whether it's Borough Hall, at the parks, the pool, etc., we don't have meters. So we actually don't know how much water the borough itself is using. The problem with that is when we get a bill from New Brunswick, we never get a snapshot of exactly what we used that day or over the course of that month and can compare it to billing. So we don't know how much water is leaking within our system. other than going around and studying everything and basically putting a stethoscope to a hydrant or a valve and see if you can hear some water leaking somewhere in the line, it's very hard to account for this lost water. Are we getting billed the appropriate amount from New Brunswick? Well, we don't really have a net meter on our end that we can look at in a moment's notice or even over the course of a month to say, this is about what we're using. Unaccountable water, again, when we do our hydrant flushing, which every water system does twice a year to flush out the rust, the sediment from the pipes, we don't know how much water we're actually using on that. This, by doing monthly billing, will give us a better understanding of how much water we are using as a borough in our operations, as well as how much water is being sent out directly to the customers that we're recapping those costs on. Identify high and low demand periods, like the summer for high, winter for your low times, and plan the work accordingly. This goes into a lot more of the engineering data that would be necessary to determine the size of a water tank you need for fire flows, about approximately how much sewage you're pumping through your sewer pump station. Are we constantly running that pump station because we've got a lot more water flowing through the system at any given time than we anticipated? Are the pumps sized correctly? Is the force main sized correctly? Provide data for the engineering, that goes back to it, and financial analysis, and reduce the delinquency of collections. I truly believe that one of the reasons we have such delinquency in collections and people paying the bill is after 3 months of not paying a bill and you get one, you go, oh my God, what happened? I didn't think it was going to be this high. This should help people plan more accordingly and understand what they're going to be getting themselves into for each month of the year once this is implemented. So current versus proposed tier quantities. So the yellow column here is, I keep looking this way, the yellow column here is our current tier system. Based on 3 months of billing or quarterly billing, our minimum volume is 7,500 gallons, 7,500 gallons per household or per customer, per meter. That's $165.97 for 7,500 gallons. Proposed, when we go to monthly, because it's now monthly instead of quarterly, you're dividing by 3. So 2,500 gallons per month at a cost of $57.26. Now that $57.26, if you're doing math at home on your calculator, may look like it's about $1.93 too high. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Just know that now you're looking at a minimum bill of about $60, $57.26, instead of $165 after 3 months. So if you do have some of these issues in your home where money is tight, at least you can help plan accordingly a little bit better. Tier 2 volume, 7,500 gallons to 15,000 gallons. That is charged at a rate of $15.09 per 1,000 gallons. So the dollar per gallon rate at this time with this resolution does not change at all the dollar per gallon proposed for monthly. What it does do is decrease the quantity. Again, that's a 7,500 gallon range. For 3 months, we're going to reduce that down to 2,500 gallons. The same thing for Tier 3, which is up to 22,500 gallons. That is a rate of 19.51, so $19.51 for every 1,000 gallons you use. Proposed 5,000 to 7,500 gallons. Folks, 7,500 gallons in a month for a single-family home is a lot of water. Tier 4 volume is anything over 22,500 gallons currently for 3 months. This would now be anything over 7,500 gallons for 1 month. Again, simply dividing by 3 your gallon usage. So I've looked at the breakdown of our customers in town. What is the data, right? So information generated by analyzing the past 1 year of billing data for the Borough of Milltown. And this is done billing last year because it was assumed that with the rate increase, most people were going to be turning down the faucet. We didn't want to look at previous years where things cost a little bit less. We want to look at pretty much the worst case scenario, which was last year with the big news of the rate increase. So look at that data for a year, and it provides a cursory understanding of the current borough quarterly billing system. So I want to go over that. The borough is divided into 8 cycles, basically where you live in town. Those 8 cycles are combined to generate 3 different billing groups. Every month, one of the 3 groups is billed. It's metered and billed. After 3 months, all 3 billing groups, or all 8 cycles, have been billed. And currently, there are 2,592 accounts that we bill. I wish I had the walk-away microphone. Cycles 1, 2, and 6, I'll go through this somewhat quickly, just because unless you live in the cycle or you know what cycle you're in, or maybe perhaps when you get your bill, it may or may not pertain to you, this particular slide. But cycles 1, 2, and 6, it consists of 864 residential units, 44 two-family homes, 3 three-family homes, 2 four-family homes, 1 five-family home, 2 six-family homes, and 38 commercial units. Pay attention to the commercial units. Because quite frankly, we don't charge a different rate for commercial use versus residential use in the borough's water and sewer system, something that nearly every other town does. And they don't necessarily do it by commercial versus residential, they do it by pipe size. For cycles 1, 2, and 6, your billing dates are January, April, July, and October. That is for your 3 previous months of billing. So January bill is for October, November, and December. April, January, February, March. July, April, May, and June. And October, July, August, and September. So if you get a bill in October, chances are you are one of the disparaged folks, one of the people who get a very high bill, because you're getting billed for July and August, typically hot months, and then you've got a little bit of a break with September. Cycles 3, 4, and 7, again, 755 residential units, 25 two-family, 2 three-family, 4 four-family, 2 five-family, 0 six-family, 47 commercial units, and 1 IND, which I have to get a little bit of an explanation on because I don't understand what an IND is. There's about 10 or 15 of those within our system overall. Billing dates are February, May, August, and November. Cycles 5 and 8. Cycles 5 and 8 have 725 residential units, 15 two-family, 4 three-family, 1 four-family, no 5-family, 1 6-family, and 51 commercial units and 5 IND units. Billing dates are March, June, September, and December. So looking at the past year of data, we had to use the 3rd and 4th quarter from 2018, as well as the 1st and 2nd quarter for 2019. One thing to touch on before we go forward, folks, is I just want to be clear. You can see there that when we bill in January, we're not actually billing for all the October usage or all the November usage. We have no way of identifying how much was actually used in October versus how much was used in November versus how much was used in December. And we certainly don't collect all the money at one time. So this chart represents our current tiering system. So for the 3rd quarter in 2018, I've broken it down because I know a lot of residents have asked, can we lower the tiers? I definitely don't use 7,500 gallons. Is there a way to lower this? So I figured let's keep the tiers the way they are now, but at least let's look at the data. About 4%, 3%, 4%, and about 3.5% throughout the year is less than 1,000 gallons. These are usually around 100 homes or less. These are homes that are abandoned. Maybe someone moved, maybe there's renovations going on, but less than 1,000 gallons is not a lot at all. Very few people in town. If you're using about 1,000 to 6,000 gallons over the course of 3 months, the average there is around 16-15% of the town. And it varies depending on what quarter it is. 3rd and 4th quarter, which is for your summer months, or 3rd quarter typically, we see a decrease in the number of people that are using only 6,000 gallons. And we see that number increase in some of the more wet or colder months. So again, signifying that people don't have sprinklers on, people aren't filling pools, and this is just their standard household usage. 6,000 to 7,000 or 7,500 gallons, so all still within the minimum. Again, another 5 to 10% depending on the time of year. What this really equates to is between 22 and 30% of the residents fall within the minimum structure, fall within that tier 1. You're paying the base bill and not a penny more based on your usage. Tier 2, folks, we'll have this up online so you can look at these numbers a little bit more. I don't want to take everyone's time up, but again, between 38% and 45% of the town uses Tier 2. That means over the course of 3 months, you're using anywhere between 2,500 gallons per month to 5,000 gallons per month. Family of 4, I know I fall within the 12,000 gallons in 3-month range. This is about average. This is your average household, your average family in town fall right in that Tier 2 spot. Tier 3, again, the numbers start to drop off because now you're looking at using anywhere between 5,000 gallons a month and up to 7,500 gallons a month. Again, that's a lot of water that most people are using, or not most, but around 22% down to as low as 17% of the town. Tier 4, this is folks using, or customers, I should say, over 22,500 gallons in a 3-month period. That's a lot of water. Some of these include people like Bristol-Myers Squibb or some other big customers of ours. Again, being billed at the same rates that we charge all the residents. And that is a lot of water. And that right there is where we have to cover some of the engineering standpoint of having pumps that can handle a capacity to provide as well as collect that much water being used in a given 3-month period. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to implement a monthly billing system? Well, to implement monthly billing for water and sewer, the borough will have to take several steps to ensure the financial and operational success. First, approve a resolution to move forward. We need consensus here of the governing body that this is an endeavor worth pursuing and making sure that we can try and make it a little bit more manageable for the residents, that we can see the benefits both for the borough financially and from an engineering standpoint, as well as for the residents in their budgeting. Identify additional operational needs of the borough office staff. I provided all council members here tonight with a meeting minutes from meeting with our tax collector as well as our business administrator on some of the costs that are associated with this billing system. Identify additional operational needs of the borough. So it looks like I might have, I had it, office staff and field staff. So you've got your office staff, your billing department, you've got your field staff, the additional meter readers and folks out in the field. Identify the financial impacts of taking on this endeavor. So again, that's part of it, as well as understanding if our rates will need to be adjusted to make sure that we generate the same amount of revenue to not only build up our surplus, but cover all of our fixed cost debts, et cetera. The plan, address, remedy current deficiencies to ensure success. So currently, one of the issues there is we've got around 432 homes that have estimated bills. That's a problem. When you estimate a bill and you assume that it's about correct and you get no feedback from a resident, whether they've got dogs in the yard they won't put away, you just can't get into the house, or you've scheduled appointments and they're never home. When we re-up at the end of the year, and that bill is super, super high, because we've never been able to get into your house or read your bill on a monthly or quarterly basis, we have no idea what you're using. You have no way to compensate yourself and make sure that you're not spending more money than you either can afford to or than that you need to. So the how, again, broken down into a chart, current versus proposed billing frequency. Currently it's quarterly, so every 3 months, proposed monthly. Everyone in town, every month gets billed. Annual quantity of bills. Currently, by doing this only quarterly, where everyone gets 4 bills in town, it's 10,000 and change bills that are sent out. Proposed is going to be about 31,000 bills. So you can imagine there's postage associated with that. There's the postcards, the billing, the processing. Employed meter readers. Currently, we have 2 part-time meter readers, or at least we've advertised and are looking to hire meter readers. What we're looking at for the future is 3 meter readers, part-time. The reason for that is by covering additional area in town, we should be able to accommodate monthly billing for both electric and water with 3 part-time personnel out in the field. Office staff. Currently, there are 2 full-time and 1 part-time employee in the billing department. Now, that doesn't include our tax collector herself, but this is the staff that really collects the bills, looks at the data from the meter readers, sends out for rereads, and handles all that billing and getting the bill to your door. What we're looking at is an increase of 1 part-time person, 2 full-time to 2 part-time to go to monthly. The reason for that is the additional legwork with the current number of estimated meter readings, the additional bills that need to go out. It's estimated that we would need about 1 more part-time person to assist with the extra legwork. Current bill minimum usage, we've gone over this before. Currently, it's 7,500 gallons. We're looking to go to 2,500 gallons. Here's the fun part, the financial part. I know Randy's been waiting for this one, chomping at the bit. Part-time staff, 1 year, $20,000. Postcard bills, an additional 20,000 bills to go out, right? So the postcards themselves that you get your bill on is 15 cents a piece. Postage, because we use postcards, they're 35 cents a piece. Field, so we need a meter reader out there. 1 year, estimated $20,000. Scanner guns. Now, I didn't really want to put this one in here because, quite frankly, we should have extra scanner guns already within our system to go out and read meters, but let's face it, we're going to add a meter reader. Okay, we'll throw the cost in here as well. $4,800 a piece, so $9,600. Total increase in budget, $59,968. Total number of bills being generated, this is every customer every month, so 12 times the 2,000 and change, 3,104 customers total, or bills going out. Do the math, divide the almost 60,000 by the 31,000, you get $1.93. So
Per month?
$1.93 per month for every customer going out to be able to go from quarterly billing to monthly. For us to be able to get data and understand what's actually happening in our system. For us to really nail down all those benefits and be able to estimate for the future when we need to increase rates, if that need arises, which I think we all know, regardless of what you want to plan for, there's always unexpected changes. Whether it's New Brunswick that increases their rate to us, or whether we have statutory increases for labor and personnel, whether we need to buy equipment, whatever those are, we need to budget for it. We can't throw a dart at the wall and hope that a 2% or 3% increase is going to occur. With 31,000 bills going out, $1 extra a year can generate $31,000 to help overcome some of these difficulties that we face. What's next? So, if the council approves the resolution to move forward, we can perform more in-depth analysis on the financial needs of the borough and amend the rate ordinance to address monthly billing. Now, when I say amend the rate ordinance, hopefully we don't have to change the rates at all. Again, that is something determined very much so on our cost of operations. We've already looked at $1.93 per month additional just to do this, but hopefully the rates don't have to change. It's imperative over the next several months that we take the required action in approving, number one, a part-time office personnel to start in March of 2020, because the plan here is to start or implement the billing well in advance of next year's hot summer months, right? So for now, I'm content personally, unless we get an outcry from the residents, that we want to move to monthly billing immediately, but we need some time to implement these things. So the part-time meter reader, again, to start in March. Procurement of additional meter reading equipment, and I've gotten big type there, replace the approximate 430 estimated or inaccessible meters, because that is going to drastically decrease the amount of work that has to be done to implement this plan. So give ourselves a couple of months here to move forward with this, replace those meters, be on an appropriate system, and operate properly.
Replace them with what?
New meters or the touch pads outside. So add a touch pad, or if we can't get in there.
Is that cost in the initial thing?
No, because that's a cost that, okay, go ahead. Again, just like, if you'll hold your questions till I'm done, but I'll address that now, Councilman, because you asked. You can't put every cost into this, because quite frankly, there's a cost of doing business. And we've been doing business wrong. To have 430 estimated meter readings is wrong. It's not the appropriate way to do it. So we need to replace meters on a regular basis, whether they're broken, whether a homeowner complains and wants a new meter installed, or whether we can't access it. But the plan here is we need to address those 430. That is a bulk of extra work, whether it's going out and doing rereads, revising billings, or sending a meter reader out there to only stand around and wait for the resident who's not home to answer the door. This has to be changed. So again, amend the water and sewer rate ordinance to address monthly billing, automatic rate adjustment for increases from borough water suppliers. So again, if New Brunswick comes out and says, okay guys, over the next 3 years, you're going up 1% or 2% a year, we need to implement that. And that needs to be in our rate ordinance, because otherwise, 10 years from now, we're going to find ourselves in the same hole we were in last year. Set fees for failure to comply with borough requests for meter access. This is a big one. We go out there, we schedule appointments with residents, they're not home. They don't put the dogs away. They don't have access. They didn't clear out the junk in the back room that blocks the meter. And it's not up to our employees to go moving around your fragile items that can break, or to possibly get a hernia because they didn't realize the box that you had in the corner was 90 pounds. You gotta have access. So again, these fees for failure, they're essentially a fine. But it's not that we wanna fine anyone. It's to encourage appropriate behavior. If we need to get in there and work on your meter, replace your meter, or read your meter, you need to be available for us. Amend the rate ordinance to address service diameter similar to that of other municipalities and set the rates. So again, I touched on this earlier. In other municipalities, if you look at East Brunswick, North Brunswick, or any of the private water utilities, they all have rates different based on your service diameter. 90% of the people in this town are residential customers. You've got a 3/4 inch or a 5/8 inch service running to your house. But your big customers, whether you're Home Depot, Target, Acme, or for example, Bristol, you have large pipes.
We're in New Brunswick.
But you're actually a Milltown customer. So all of that adds to our operational costs. And when you look at what other towns are doing, it raises the question, why are we not doing this? And I'm not talking about commercial versus residential, because quite frankly, we survive on the small businesses that are in town, the mom and pop hair shops, the smaller bakeries that used to be, or the pizza places. That's Milltown. We don't want to hurt our businesses in town, but we have to make sure that people are paying their fair share. So with that, the next slide, I believe, is questions. So if anyone has questions or would like to ask me or the rest of council or anyone else here, please feel free. Russ, if you want to turn the lights on. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Who's gonna replace the 430 additional meters?
Our staff,
What staff?
our utility staff.
Utility department?
Yes, we need to go out.
How many rereads do they do a day now?
I don't have those figures exactly. Jeanette, do you happen to know how many rereads they do currently?
I don't have that data, no.
They set every Thursday they make appointments now. I can't say, it probably averages some weeks maybe 5, some more.
So if we're sending people out every Thursday currently to do a reread, we might as well fix the problem and either replace the meter or put in a touchpad and make it so that we can read these meters regularly, just like all the other residents in town.
If you're sending
So-
people out every Thursday, that's on quarterly billing. That number's gonna triple on monthly billing.
No. And
Yes, yes. Think it through, think it through.
Randy, if you'll let me answer, I've thought it through. By replacing the 432 meters that are currently estimated, we're not gonna have that many people going out on Thursdays. In the meantime, over the winter, absolutely. Those guys need to get out, replace those meters, and make them accessible for our staff to read and properly bill, and not estimate, and conduct business the way it should be conducted. So yes, for the time being, while we're still on quarterly, it's difficult. But once we move to monthly, these should be replaced. And again, that's why we have to have language in there about fees for non-compliance. If we contact you and say we need to get in your home to replace your meter or to put in a touchpad, you have to make yourself available. And I know our staff works tremendously with most residents so far, but there's still a handful that doesn't matter how many times we schedule an appointment, when we show up, there's no one home. And that has to stop, because that's a waste of our money. That's a waste of our borough expenses.
Do you want to take questions from the public first or the council first?
It doesn't matter to me.
Well, we'll let the public go first, and then we can ask questions, since we'll have to vote on the resolution.
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. Is there a reason why none of the borough buildings have a meter?
I asked the same question last year when we got involved in this and started looking at metering and possibly implementing. And I asked, how much do we use down here? Because again, if we were operating like any other municipality who has a private system, that private system would bill the municipality for all of its facilities. We don't. Why? I don't know. That's the way it was when I came on board.
Because who's gonna get the bill?
It doesn't matter
Borough
who gets the
Milltown.
bill.
Well, it doesn't
Who's
really-
gonna get the bill and the taxpayers are gonna
Yeah.
pay anyway, so what's it, why? We
Because,
don't really need to know how much,
Usage.
we just know that they're paying anyway.
no, we need to know how much, because we need to know how much we're using. If New Brunswick says you used 5 million gallons last month, and I'm just gonna throw round numbers out there, and we have bills that go out to the residents for only 4 million gallons, did we use 1 million? I don't know.
I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good thing, because I'd like to know where the water's going.
It's accountability.
Now, my next question is, does the new project across the street have meters?
Actually, Mike?
I believe it does.
Good to hear. So the problem that I have with, and some of the ideas are good here, but the problem that I have is when you're talking about high demand and low demand, I still don't think you have enough staff that you're like kind of thinking to add in. Because you're going from 10,000 transactions to 31,000 transactions with part-time people. I know you probably want to keep people at part-time because you make them full-time, that's benefits, and that just adds to the cost. But I'm just trying to understand, like,
Well, it's the reason why I believe that it can be done with part-time, and again, this was all covered in a discussion that I had with the tax collector who runs the billing department, essentially, as well as our BA, to understand what the needs are. And this is what they've identified as the needs. Again, the reason I think it's feasible is because currently we're already doing the entire town every month for electric.
Right.
And we're currently doing
Right.
1/3 of the town every month. So if we'll use the same numbers, there's actually more electric meters out there than there are water. But assume there's 31,000 bills that go out for electric every year, plus 10,000 for water. Now we're doing 60,000, right? 30 minus the 10, that's an additional 20, so total of
Right.
60,000 bills that go out every year. That's 1/3 of the increase. We have 2 full-time and 1 part-time in there already. So essentially making another part-timer should help us make up that difference, as well as addressing the 432 meters that are estimated will drastically improve our odds of not having those.
that comes to my next question. So what is 432 meters going to cost? Or 432 touchpads, or a combination of touchpads or water meters? Approximately.
John would have the numbers on what a meter is. I know every year he buys quite a few meters because they do need to get replaced. And the touchpads is something that we already have for most of the residents. But I look at it as the offset between sending out the personnel and all the legwork that goes into estimating readings, and then what the office staff goes through to try and explain to people who've had estimated bills for 3 or 4 years and finally had their meter replaced, all the lost revenue there, that it's a wash. These are things that we need to do to operate properly. So the cost of a meter, we could have a bunch go. And in fact, it's recommended by the AWWA, the American Water Works Association, that meters have only a 20-year lifespan. 20 years. Otherwise, they start running slower. And I'm not telling people, don't tell anyone, but your meter's running slow. But that, again, goes back to unaccounted for water. We get billed for 5 million gallons. We bill for 4 million. Where did the rest go? Well, if your meter's not working right, that's a problem. And you might not like it, but we need to charge accordingly because there's other residents in town who have no meters that are getting billed for every gallon they use.
So what I would say is the first thing you should try to tackle is the 430 meters, because without that, that's going to be an issue from the get-go. You probably need to put in, again, I'd say you need to put in a couple of more part-time people, which will add up to full-time people. I really don't know why this wasn't included in the budget this year, even though the budget's pretty much done, I assume?
This is planning for next year.
I understand, but it's still something you have to take into account for next year's
That's
budget.
right. The reason it's being discussed now
Yeah,
instead of next year is because every year the budget's made and we have
Sure,
constraints
sure.
and we say, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to this year, and you go another year of the inequality and not fixing these problems. So the point is, focus on it now, get it in place, so we have to address it in next year's budget, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and have it in place. Essentially, what we'd be looking to do is second quarter billings, which start in April, is the people get billed in April. That would be their last 3-month bill. They would then start on the monthly plan. The May people would get their last 3-month bill and then be on the monthly plan. So that by start of third quarter, everyone is being billed monthly.
so the last thing I'll say is I really think that you need to get away from like mailing out your bills. I pay my bill online. It's always nice to come down here and say hi to everybody, but I think we should get away from mailing out bills and just having people log in, pay online. That's just my take on it.
That's a great idea, and it's actually one of the benefits as we move closer to this and
Yep.
people start to pay online and use more of the online services that we do have.
I wish you luck.
Those costs will decrease. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, Anna Neubauer, 138 Washington Avenue. I just have one question. I understand and I actually really like the idea of monthly billing, but the order of the steps, is there a reason we have to approve a resolution tonight before we do everything else in that plan? Like seeing the impact on the borough, seeing the impact on the workers?
The purpose of the resolution tonight is to get council consensus and commitment to move forward. If we don't commit to move forward, the ball is going to be dropped. We will start focusing our efforts on other issues, right? Which, again, there's plenty to focus on. But if we have something that we want to run with and it's a good idea, then we need to make sure that we implement it and take the steps. If we let it drag on and then say in January, we're going to do it, when are we going to implement it? Again, we're going to run into the next summer by the time all those changes have been made. So the idea is pass it now, make the commitment to the borough, make the commitment to the residents, and work towards that goal to implement by March.
Okay, and so just a follow-up question to that then. Is there going to be anything in the resolution that if this doesn't work out exactly, like God forbid something, like you need more full-time people than you actually realize, if it's more of an increase than we've realized, is there any way we can include something in the resolution that we can backtrack, saying we don't have to go through with it? Or if you pass a resolution tonight, no matter what the numbers say, you have to go through with it?
I'm going to actually ask our attorney about that one. That's a great question. Off the cuff, my gut tells me that we could back out.
Okay.
If we start studying the rates and say, you know what, this is just going to cost everyone way too much money, it's really not the benefit, then we can always back out. We can always bring this resolution up again at a later date, cancel it out. But the point is, we won't know that until we commit to moving forward and getting to that step.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So actually, I would like to follow up on that, because one of my questions was, the resolution says supporting the transition, which is kind of, what does that mean exactly, supporting the transition? I was under the impression that we were going to get the presentation tonight, be able to ask questions, and then not have to vote on doing this 100%, but to say, oh, it's, you go to the car dealer, you pick the tire, okay, yeah, maybe I'll take it for a test drive.
Well,
Not to, if we vote on it, that we're locked into any.
I think we're getting into semantics about reading the language again. We
Right,
can always pull
but-
this up later and cancel it out if we find that the costs associated are getting too much or it's too big of an endeavor to take on. But the transition, yes, we're transitioning from quarterly to monthly. It's
Oh,
just,
that's what it means, okay.
that's all it is, that you're
So-
supporting moving forward with this and really putting the effort in to make it all work and really evaluate all the costs. Because quite frankly, there may be some additional costs. We may have to have our auditor look at some numbers. We may have our software have to look at some numbers and run things to make sure the rates and money that's generated is appropriate. all of that plays into it. So without backtracking every time and having a full presentation again on why we need to do that, it should be understood that there may be some additional costs. There may be some additional costs in writing the rates, the rate amendment, but we didn't want to open up the rate ordinance tonight because we'd wind up opening it up to move to monthly billing in March as a commitment from everyone, and then still have to open it up later on to, once we run all the numbers even more precisely,
So
to the
when-
best of what we can with the data we have.
When you say "we," are you speaking on behalf of the Finance Committee, the Utility Committee?
I'm speaking on behalf of the council and the residents. So we are a body up here. It's not we, the finance, it's not we, the utilities, it's we, the Borough Council.
So the only issue I see with putting the resolution on is, and for the folks who are listening, normally this gets done in a committee, be it and anything dealing with rates would come from the Finance Committee, and a lot of this work would be done, and then it would be presented to the council, and then we would vote on an ordinance. The problem that I have with this ordinance, the way it is now, is that we don't have all of our facts and exactly
It's
how.
not an ordinance, it's a resolution.
Excuse me.
There's a
The
difference legally on
But as
how
you just
it's
said, the
acted on.
resolution would bind us to the transition, and then
It would commit us to moving forward,
to what?
to evaluating the rates more thoroughly. Now, the next step here, and I didn't have it in the slide, but I sent everyone up here on the council, including the mayor, the minutes from the meeting that I had with Ms. McCormick and our BA. And the purpose for that is Councilman Dixon, Councilwoman Kerber, and Councilman Legati are on finance. Committing to move forward, the Finance Committee can take the information that's provided and what we have already and start working. Councilwoman Mayer, myself, and Councilman Farkas are on the utilities.
Right.
So we can work as two groups towards the same goal. But to ensure that everyone's working towards the goal and putting in the effort, we want a commitment. And that's the purpose of the resolution.
So, but the problem I have is, first of all, to ask for the ratepayers to pay anything extra to do this.
$1.93 a month is too much to assist yourself in billing? I'll ask this question because I thought about it today. What else do we use over an extended period of time that you might not know? And it occurred to me, if you went to the gas station every day to fill up your car for work, drove down the road on your merry way, miles don't mean anything unless you've got a meter on there that shows exactly how much fuel you're using. But then the credit card you use bills you only every 3 months. And you go, oh my God, I shouldn't have taken that trip to Disney World. I shouldn't have gone to wherever it may be. I mean, it's absurd to think that over 3 months you should be able to account back to what you'd used on day one of that billing cycle.
So would you say there's been an outcry to ask for monthly billing? I'm the chair of the Utilities Committee. I haven't heard an outcry. Have the other council members been getting a lot of feedback? Because I actually got feedback in the last several days before this meeting from people saying, one way or another, we'll take a look, but I don't want to have to pay any more for my rates or for my water or sewer because the rates went up enough already. And I believe that when you put this out on Facebook, you said this proposal does not include any additional charges to residents or a change in the rates per gallon. So now, 2 weeks later, we're coming out with a $2 a month charge, which is $24 a year for people, and maybe, and I can see where the people that get it in the summer would, want to maybe get it in a monthly bill. However, why should the other 75% of the people pay $24 a month more because a few people don't budget for their bill?
Well, I've heard from quite a few people. I've spoken to seniors, I've spoken to the local businesses and mentioned that we would possibly move to monthly billing. More and more people are going that way. And you've got so many white reports out there on the news, you go online, millennials want to pay a monthly billing. They won't have to worry about it 3 months later. And think about it, everyone can budget better on a monthly billing. How do you look at it? Middlesex Water Company, monthly billing. They're actually we're $1 more and a little change, that's it.
A month.
A month, that's it. That's all we are
So-
higher compared to Middlesex Water
I'm
Company.
glad you brought up the seniors. So when you talk about the tier schedule, have we looked at how the tier schedule is going to affect the amount that the borough brings in, Jeanette? Will it stay the same? Will it increase? Will it decrease?
We haven't formally had that reviewed.
So we're being asked to vote on a resolution when we haven't even reviewed all of the information that could ultimately affect our rates, which we just talked about might be affected by the bond issuance for the force main as well, correct?
Correct.
Well, the resolution is to then move forward with the plan so that we study those rates even more precisely. And again, we're gonna have,
why
excuse-
don't-
let me,
why don't
let
we
me,
vote
let me
on it
answer your
then?
question. Let me answer your question. It's very, very difficult to take a 3-month bill of, say, $600 and divide that out and say, well, this is what they actually used in June, because we don't know. We have no way of knowing what they used each month. No way of knowing. All we know is that after 3 months, this is what used. Well, when did I use it? Sorry, can't help you with that. That's not a good answer for the residents. That's not a good answer for us when we want to look at, is this going to impact us? Are we going to be able to make our budget work next year? Those are the type of things that need to be addressed, and that's why you move to monthly billing.
But I would prefer to know the impact to the ratepayers as well before we vote on anything. And not to mention, you speak about the seniors. Did you have a discussion about lowering the tier for people that you said were in the small
Absolutely.
percentage,
And
which
if
the
you read-
majority
There
are
for free-
seniors?
Yes, if you
proposal.
read the rest of the questions and answers that were posted on Milltown for All, you'll see that one of the steps, one of the advantages here too, is that it enables us to start seeing how we can do that. Right now, it's very, very difficult to do that because we only have 3 months worth of data at a time. But once we move to monthly, we can see how many people are actually using that. And again, with the slide that I had, we saw, I don't remember what page it was,
It
but
was
let's see, less than 6,000 gallons in a quarter. So again, 2,000 gallons. So this is towards lowering that bottom tier if we can. But we can't just implement everything at once. It's very irresponsible to take several variables, throw them into the mixing pot, and hope that things work out. You take one step at a time, and the first step is moving to monthly billing. Right now, we're looking at about 16% of the population, up to about 20% of the population are our customers that use less than 6,000 gallons in a quarter, less than 2,000 gallons a month. And then you could break it down further. You can start analyzing everything even further to the best of your ability with a 3-month window. But you will never know until it's implemented what's going to happen month to month. Me personally, I believe that if someone's using 12,000 gallons over the course of 3 months, you divide their bill. 1 month might be higher, 1 month might be less, but if you add their 3 bills together, you're looking at 12,000 gallons. So you're still going to generate the same amount of revenue. When they use it is different, but people are still going to use the same amount of water.
I have a few questions. I'd like to ask them all at once, and either the business administrator can answer, or Rich, you can answer. My first is, I think it took a lot of work to put this together, and thank you very much. I don't think it's a far-fetched idea. I have some questions, though. I'd like to ask them. And my first question in seeing the presentation is the tier level. In Milltown, if I understand correctly, the more water you use, the higher the rate is. This is going to affect our bottom line as a utility, in that if I understand correctly, if you go to monthly billing, let's say I'm on the higher tier right now, but if I go to monthly billing, I'm going to drop down and not get charged as much money because I'm on a monthly rate now. Now, as a resident, that's a good thing. As a borough and a municipality that has a water utility, that's a bad thing. Now, we're in a catch-22, the 6 people sitting up here. And everybody should understand that. That's my first question, is that, do we know the effect of that bottom line to the utility if we go to monthly billing? That may be a Jeanette question.
That was what I
We-
asked.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay, so
We
we don't
don't-
know the
not-
answer to that.
We don't know,
But we can get
We
the
have,
answer.
you
No,
have
we
to talk
can't.
to the auditor.
We can't. And the reason we can't get it is because we don't know on someone's monthly bill what month they use that water. So that goes back to my previous comment. If someone uses 12,000 gallons over 3 months, whether they use in the first month, second month, or third month, over those 3 months, they're still gonna use 12,000 gallons. That's why we're also dividing the tier level by 3.
Yes, but
So
I,
instead of it being, I have to hit 7,500 gallons in a given month to hit tier 2,
see, this is
Now
what,
it's-
see,
it's a third.
you're gonna, we're projecting, you're throwing a lot of numbers at people, you're confusing everybody out there, you're confusing me. I think we pay an auditor a hell of a lot of money that he's gonna be able to estimate that answer for us. I think he's an educated man and he's gonna be able to do that for us, if he can. And I don't think it's gonna
That's
be.
his job, by
He
the
did
way.
when we were
That's
gonna
his
raise the
job.
rates. He should
Okay.
be able to do it now.
That was my first question. My second question here is, we have an awful attrition rate with meter readers. We can't keep one part-time meter reader. You want to try and keep 3 part-time meter readers. That's going to be a task all in itself. If we had to do this for monthly, I don't know if the utility department can handle, this month we only have 1 meter reader, next month we have 2, the following month they all quit, we don't have any. That's a problem that needs to be addressed before this ordinance can get passed, and that's in my opinion. Now, the other thing here is that small businesses, regardless of what they are, this ordinance, well, I don't know if this ordinance addresses it, but you addressed it, that a resolution should be increasing commercial businesses, and that small, big, large, whatever, I don't think that we should be hurting all our small businesses. It's hard enough to keep storefronts here, and there's too many vacant ones as it is, and you tell them that you're gonna be paying more for water, I think is a bad idea. Again, my opinion. Now, the last thing I have here is, we can do this without costing the borough a dime. I went back and looked at my 2 years of water bills. And sure enough, they're $50, $100 off. I'll give you a ballpark number of $1,400 for the year. I come to Borough, whether it be online or I walk in the building, and I give them $140 a month. As a resident who likes monthly billing, I just brought myself into monthly billing. The borough is never going to turn money away. You did it on your own, and it didn't cost us anything. I'm giving them $140 a month. By the end of the 12 months, I'm even, because I use the same amount of water each year. And if I don't, the difference at the end is going to be manageable. And it didn't cost anybody anything. The onus can be on a resident if they are that concerned about going to monthly billing. Go to the utility department, say, what did I use for water the last 2 years? Divide it by 12, start sending them a check each month, and you're on monthly billing. Didn't cost anybody anything. Crickets, because it makes sense.
No, I'm just writing down my response before I start speaking, but I thought you had more questions.
No, I said that was my last one.
Oh.
Oh, and the other thing was, regardless of if we do this or not, I agree. The 430 meters should be rectified starting tomorrow.
We've been talking about that already.
Yeah.
So, let's see, where to start? The monthly rate evaluation. I'll tell you now that before I even looked at presenting this to the public, I discussed with other municipalities, and one resident actually told me that East Brunswick has a flat sewer rate. And I thought, oh my God, how do they do that?
That's right.
I called them up. You know what they do? They bill the residents a flat rate, and all those businesses along Riders Lane, along Route 18, and everywhere else in East Brunswick pays by demand. They pay based on water usage. We don't have that luxury. We don't have hundreds and hundreds of businesses in town where we could say, you guys pay more, we're gonna give a break to the residents. Again, it's based on the size of the service going to your house. If you're a resident, your service is gonna be standard. 3/8 or 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch. If you're a big business, you've got a 2-inch line. Look at East Brunswick's rates. These are all the things that we can move forward to, but unless we do monthly billing, you'll never get there. And I agree, we do pay an auditor for this. Is this above and beyond his normal scope of work for us to do? I don't know, but again, the resolution says if we spent, and I'll throw a number, $500 on the auditor to really look at these rates again for next year, then is it money well spent? Is everyone up here gonna complain that I can't believe we spent $500 to look at the rates? This is ridiculous, cancel it right now. Or are we gonna commit to it and move forward? Attrition rate of meter readers, I agree, it's tough. But perhaps with a sufficient amount of reading that needs to be done every month, we won't get people who say, last week I only worked 4 days, or last month I worked 4 days. I mean, there was a proposal up here at the last council meeting to have a standby. Find me someone who's gonna be a standby part-time employee. Good luck. Again, if meter readers are the problem, doing monthly billing enables us to put in a pilot program even to look at the costs and operational benefits of remote meter reading systems. Just like East Brunswick's got, they've got the drive-by system. Guy drives down the street, he doesn't stop and read meters, he drives down the street and it collects all the data. Other towns use an automated metering infrastructure. Press a button, everyone's bill in a shot, and every hour it records your usage. You wanna find out why your bill's so high? Let's look back, there it was, Thursday the 26th. You spiked in usage. Oh my God, that's right, my kid was playing outside and the lawn left the hose on for a couple hours. These are the things we have to work to, but unless we take the steps necessary, we'll never get there. Commercial versus small business, I'm not sure if you were listening to everything I said up there. Maybe I did lose you while you were looking at some numbers. Again, small diameter. Most of the businesses in this town are small diameter. These are barber shops. These guys aren't using tons and tons of water every day, and if they are, they're paying for it. Their rates shouldn't change. No. But someone like Bristol Myers Squibb, where we have to have extra pumps online and additional storage capacity and backup power, I mean, come on, 22,000 gallons a month is a heck of a lot of water. So we need to look at those and charge people accordingly. And it's not the residents that are using it. In those situations, we do have businesses that should be paying their fair share, because having larger pipes to feed them costs money. Operating larger pumps costs money. Paying the electric associated with operating larger pumps. Having larger generators up there costs more money. And that's the way this breaks down. Why don't people just pay monthly? I don't know. Almost every month, Ron here, Councilman Dixon, reads out all the outstanding bills. $132,000 in water. People aren't paying them every quarter now, let alone show up here and go, hey, here's $50. I hope it covers me for the next month, right? I'll see it when the bill comes in. How much extra work is that for our staff to then look back and go, okay, they dropped off $50 this week, they dropped off $50 last month, deduct that, which they certainly can, but to expect everyone to find time to come down to Borough or email people and say, what water did I use last year? That's absurd.
I did it on my own.
You did. But people
It's
who
very
don't have
easy.
their bills saved up, what are they gonna do?
They don't have the bill, they come here, you can look it up in 5 minutes. And they can tell them, the last 2 years you used $1,500 and $1,550. It'd take them 2 minutes to find out.
2 minutes at 2,500 people, let's see.
Now,
how many
2,500
hours
people are not
No,
walking
she
through the
said,
door.
we talked about it at the last meeting, if it was a hardship for someone and they couldn't pay their big summer bill, they would
83
certainly
hours
be
of
able
work.
to drop off
That's
whatever
right.
they could.
That's right.
So let me ask you this,
But
what
we
was
also do charge them the interest rate, the 18% interest rate as well. So even though they can't pay their monthly bill because it stacks up over 3 months and they didn't realize the toilet running meant that big of a difference, we still charge them 18%. At least monthly, they'll be able to identify and say, oh my gosh, I better fix this problem. I've got a problem in my house.
So what was the impetus for this? Was it to help the ratepayers or to get the borough
So
more
I had a
information?
slide on there about the benefits for the residents as well as the benefits for the borough.
No, I'm just wondering, what was the light bulb? Like, do I really, what
It needs to
caused
be
it?
done.
But for what, the ratepayers or the
Yeah.
borough?
For
I don't
both.
disagree with you.
For
I
both.
think it
No,
needs
but-
to be done. But
I mean,
I think this is
financial
a
accounting,
great
it's just-
starting point, and this should be sent to the finance committee who handles stuff like this. Why can't you say, I've given you a starting point, take it to the finance committee, Jeanette has enough time to vet out the questions that we have. Why are you forcing me to vote on something at the next meeting that hasn't been vetted properly? I think it's a great idea. I think it should be done, but it should be vetted more. If that $1.93 is not a real number, because, you know, that's like the car dealership. He hands you a piece of paper with the number, and then when you come back to sign the papers, that number is different. I don't know that that's going to be the case.
You gotta add the undercoating, Nick.
Yeah.
You called me a used car salesman in the last meeting.
Right, and the undercoating here who's going to add it is the finance department, because once it's been vetted properly, they're going to say, now that number is $3.93. Who knows? I don't know, but it's still not vetted properly. It has to go to the finance committee like you suggested. It's a great starting point. I think it's a great idea, but you're forcing us to vote on something later that hasn't been vetted.
I'm not
Correct.
forcing anyone to vote.
So, what, but
This still needs to be adopted, approved, etc. The same as we do all other resolutions. You don't want to vote on it? Don't. You want to adopt it and say, I move we approve this resolution? I'd like to make an amendment and say, this resolution. Let's not do it at all. You want to say we're going to implement it in 20 years? Go right ahead. It's your choice as a council member. But I'm telling you, if you don't do it, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. Because we need this data. The data that is generated from this will help us tremendously in planning for the future. Like I said, if you want to do a project and you're borrowing $600,000 to do a water main, and that comes out to about $35,000 a year. In 1 year, the minimum increase is $1 a month, $31,000. There's your debt service. And for 20 years, that stays on. And when that project's paid off, you take the dollar away and you say, how much is a new project? Right now, we're throwing darts at a wall. You know how much East Brunswick paid for a rate analysis for their sewer system? $40,000. I couldn't get this council to agree on $40,000 to determine whether selling our system and eliminating our debt and letting someone else handle all this mess was worthwhile. Let alone 40 grand to evaluate the rates. And now they're doing it again for their water. So tell me, what do you guys want to do?
That's a
This
good
was an
point, though,
introduction.
Councilman
This was a
Revelinsky.
discussion. The resolution's on for the regular meeting.
So I'm just curious, this is the first time since the year and a half that I've been on that we've had a resolution to say that we're going to try something out. But 2 years ago, you did the presentation, a very good presentation about the meters that you just talked about. Why didn't you put a resolution on to move forward with that? Or
Because
last year, when you proposed to sell the water utility, why didn't you put a resolution on for that so that we could examine it more? I'm curious as to why
Because
this
that was
has
the
a
mistake.
resolution.
That was the mistake. The mistake was not asking this council to vote on a resolution to make a commitment. It was silence up here when it came to spending $40,000 to see if it was in our best interest to sell. It was silence up here when it came to spending money on meter readings, automated meter reading systems. And you know what? I look back at that and I go, God, what a pipe dream. Automated meter reading system. What a benefit to the town. How wonderful it would be. $2 million. You know what? Maybe now's not the time. We don't have the money for that. That's a great idea. It's terrific. It would benefit the town. But you know what? There's more things that we need to spend $2 million
Well, the
on.
problem is with doing these presentations and certainly putting these things out to the public without having all of the information, come to a meeting, make your presentation, like with the meters, and say, it's going to cost $3 million to replace all the meters in town. Or we have to spend $100,000 on evaluation to sell our water before we can even get a buyer. Or in this case, it's going to affect the rates in X, Y, and Z way. We have to find out exactly how many people we, need to hire and what the expense is and you did a very good presentation. However, we don't have the full information, just like we didn't have with the meters or we didn't have with the water. So again, it's easy to get up here and say, we should do this, we should do that, until you come up with the figures, and then it comes to, well, we can barely afford a $300,000 fix for a force main. How are we going to commit to doing $100,000 for evaluation or a $3 million for meters? So yeah, it's fine to say we could all come up here and throw ideas out, but you have to have the numbers behind it, and then we can do an educated plan to implement it. And that should be from the utility, we worked in the utility department, here's Councilman Revelinsky's idea about the rates. Send it on to the finance committee, they get with the BA and the auditor, and then we come finally with an ordinance placed in front of us to vote yay or nay with all of the information on it. And that is how you get things done on a council.
You can't even get to the point of moving past this discussion to talk about the resolution at the regular meeting, which has a lot of preliminary information, and all the resolution is doing is asking for a commitment to continue the pursuit.
That's not what you said 5 minutes ago.
It is what I said.
Yes.
No, you didn't say commit
Okay,
to
you're right.
moving forward.
My
You said
presentation's
commit
done, so-
to the transition to monthly billing. There's a
Right.
difference.
We're
talking enough anyway, go.
There's a difference.
We've had the presentation, we're gonna move on, there's a vote on this instant, later on. Vote your hearts, whatever you feel. Moving on, any other audience comments on anything that was discussed this evening? If not, seeing no further comments, I'll ask the council for a motion to adjourn the agenda meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We'll recess for 5 minutes, is that enough time for everybody?
Sounds good to me.
Get him out there tomorrow instead of tomorrow night.
Okay? September 9th meeting, the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Present.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilman Kerber?
Present.
Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilman Mayor?
Here.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
And the mayor is absent, Council President. We have 6 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the open public meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution, the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on January 10, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Okay, we'll have a moment of silence and salute to the flag. Stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda, we have numerous minutes. We will address each set of minutes separately. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of March 11th, 2019?
Move that these minutes be adopted.
I second.
The motion to adopt and seconded. Please call the roll.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Moving on. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of March 25, 2019?
Move that the minutes be approved as typed.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and seconded. And clerk, please call the roll.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we have the minutes of April 8th, 2019.
Move that the minutes be approved as typed.
I second.
Call roll, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Thank you. Next, we move on to the minutes of June 24th, 2019.
Move that these minutes be, move that the minutes be approved as typed.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Okay, what is the council's pleasure for the minutes of July 8th, 2019?
Move that the minutes be approved as typed. Oh, I can't even move?
You can't take
I'm not gonna move. I wasn't present, so I can't
Move,
vote
move
on this
that
one.
the
I'm not
minutes
moving.
be approved as typed.
Second.
We have motion to accept and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye. Sorry. Can't spell right.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Abstain.
Council President, we have 5 ayes and 1 abstention.
Fine. What is the council's pleasure for the minutes of August 12th?
Move that the minutes be approved as typed.
Second. Okay.
A roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Abstain.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 5 ayes and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Moving on, we have comments from the audience on tonight's resolutions. If any member of the public wishes to speak on any of the resolutions, please step forward and say your name and address for the record. These comments are limited to the resolutions listed on the agenda. Seeing none, move on to the bill list. We will now go to bills and claims. Will the clerk please read the bill resolution 19229?
Yes. Authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown in the total amount of $2,520,222.09.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion's been made to accept it and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
So moved. This resolution is adopted. Next, we have reports of standing committee and introduction of resolution. Consent resolution. Consent resolution have been prepared to cover the resolutions listed on the agenda. If any member of the council wants any resolution acted upon individually, please give me the resolution number, and it will be pulled from the consent resolution.
Yes, 19239.
19239. Any others? Okay, will the clerk please read the consent resolution, which covers the resolutions listed on the agenda with the exception of 19239.
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting, and whereas the Borough Clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the Borough Clerk be approved without the necessity of having the individual resolutions read by the Borough Clerk.
Further reading of this resolution, what is your pleasure?
Make a motion that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
Will the clerk please read resolution 19239 by title?
A resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown supporting the transition to monthly billing for the water sewer department.
What is the pleasure of the council?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I have a lot of questions, but the only question I'm going to ask tonight is, why wasn't the auditor, Jerry Stankiewicz, consulted on this? Why wasn't his opinion put into this?
Because this resolution doesn't amend the rate ordinance, this resolution amends the transition to billing monthly instead of quarterly.
But he would provide information on the costs and how that's all going to affect the taxpayers. That's the person who would do that. So if you're going to try to pass a resolution, you should have all the facts up front so we can know what we're voting on.
Can we table this till we have more information, Mr. Bruder?
You can move to table any motion, or excuse me, you can move to table any resolution.
Before we table it, with all due respect to Councilman Revelinsky, I'd like his opinion on tabling it. He put a lot of work into this. Is he okay with tabling it and maybe getting it to Mr. Stankiewicz, maybe even the Finance Committee, things along those lines, to see if it gets vetted a little bit more, maybe till the next meeting or something along those lines, if we can get it, so that, we don't drop the ball and it doesn't ever get picked up again. You put a lot of work into it. What do you think?
Again, I believe that this resolution is merely to just make a commitment to move forward, but if that's what it takes and that's what we want to see, absolutely. I will say that based on the available data, and I do mean available data, because we don't have any data that shows monthly usage. Based on the available data, I don't see how much more additional information we're going to be getting out of Mr. Stankiewicz. However, absolutely, if that's what we need to do in order to pass this, by all means.
So may I ask to the BA, Jeanette, with the tier schedule, what would you be looking for with the auditor to find out for that? Whether it would affect the ratepayers or the borough, the water sewer fund, or what would be your
So
approach?
from my understanding, the tier schedule, that as it stands, was put together by the auditor last year, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
And so it would be I would certainly feel more comfortable if he was to look at this. I mean, he was able to put the rate schedule together based on the information that was already available, and so therefore I think that we need his input on whether this going to monthly billing and leaving and just simply splitting the tiers in thirds would still generate the same amount of revenue, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we generate enough revenue to operate. And
Or
this-
otherwise
and
we
this
might
way
have to
we
have
would have
another
a,
rate
you know,
increase.
exactly, whatever his findings are, at least we have someone professional, in that realm to take a look at it.
So
that's what I
then
think we need to
instead,
do.
should we just drop this resolution? Because once Mr. Stankiewicz looks at the numbers, we're gonna be 99% of the way to amending the rate ordinance.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
know.
I have
It's
no
really-
problem with the monthly billing, really, I just don't feel comfortable voting on something until I have all of the information. So if you want to go ahead and get with Mr. Stankiewicz and get all of the information and then just present a rate ordinance, that's fine. I mean, that's what I said before.
You will table this for now, and move forward with looking at it.
Whatever motion is on the floor can be superseded by the next motion, I believe, so.
That's correct.
Whatever you choose to do, let's do it, and I would hope that if anyone wants to see more information, they get me specifics on what they wanna see, so
Well,
we're not
No, I think
kicking this down the road anymore.
what we said was, we're gonna commit to having the BA meet with the auditor to examine the tier,
And
schedule.
possibly the finance committee.
Yeah,
So we will
correct.
look at it further. You're willing to pull it? And is there any other motion
It
needed?
requires a motion from the floor at the table. There needs to be a motion made.
I'd like to make a motion to table ordinance, I don't know, what is it?
19,239.
19239, resolution 19239. Trina and I are on ordinances on our hands.
Exactly. Oh, second.
A motion been made and second, table resolution 19239. Full roll, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, that's 6 ayes to table.
Moving on, thank you. Now we go on to council reports. First council report is Department of Finance, Administration, and Planning. That is me, and I have no report for this meeting. Moving on, Department of Public Safety, which is chaired by Councilman Nicholas Legati.
Thank you, Council President Dixon. September monthly Milltown Police Department report. Between August 6, 2019 and September 4th, 2019, police have received and answered 1,448 calls for service. Police conducted a total of 422 motor vehicle stops, which includes special traffic enforcement and drunk driving details. 122 radar details were conducted in various locations during this period. This includes 25 radar runs targeted to Kuthlau Avenue. Police responded to 29 motor vehicle accidents and made 11 arrests, which include shoplifting, drugs, DWI, theft, aggravated assault, robbery, and warrant arrest. Boy, I read this and you're like, oh, I don't want to go there to live. Boy, no, but it's a very low number, and our police guys do a great job. Milltown Police has been working with Public Works to install new traffic safety signs in various locations, including improvements of some of our school crossings. Milltown Police Department continues to maintain all required trainings and continues to maintain the high accreditation standards for best police practices. In response to multiple complaints of fox sightings, please visit our website for information on coexisting with fox in our neighborhoods. We currently are accepting applications for part-time dispatchers and part-time crossing guards. School is back. Vehicles and pedestrian traffic has been increased, so please drive safely. Police encourage residents to remain vigilant and report suspicious activity, traffic concerns to 732-828-1100 or www.milltownnj.org. Chief Brian Cannella. On a side note, if everybody had noticed that Main Street was blocked off last night into this morning, there was a little mishap. The roof on, I guess it was above the old Mr. A's Remax had collapsed, and for safety reasons, we had to close off Main Street for a particular amount of time. It was opened up today, I think about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. All the safety is good. I do want to report that we had a good response to the police presence and with in effects to getting our kids to school safely this morning. It was a very positive reaction from all the residents on how we did things this morning with that road being closed. So I want to thank the police department and congratulate them on a job well done. And that concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the Department of Utilities, which is chaired by Councilwoman Trina Mayer.
Thank you, Council President. For the month of August, the Utility Department had the following work: 53 daily station checks, 31 substation checks, 50-plus utility markouts. Water samples. Disinfectant residual testing was performed on August 7th, 14th, and 21st. All testing was found to be within acceptable parameters. In addition, additional testing was performed for quarterly TTHM, HAA samples. All results were satisfactory. Electrical utility. Various electric meters were replaced. Several house drops and hooks were replaced. 5 street lights were repaired, and we have been aggressively patrolling at night to compile a full list of broken fixtures. Street lights deemed unrepairable have been replaced with energy-efficient LED lights. 6 new lights went up in August. Ongoing maintenance of the overhead wiring has resumed and several deficiencies repaired. A pole transfer was completed on Garrettson Circle to replace a broken one, and an additional pole was replaced in the area that had integrity issues. A contract was issued to Rich's Tree Service for annual line clearance, and that work should start mid-September. Line clearance is an effective way to prevent outages. Tree trimming was performed around primary and secondary wires in several locations. Vegetation management was performed at the new substation, as well as various locations where vines were climbing up poles. For the water department, roughly 6 broken water meters were replaced throughout the borough and new remote readers were installed. Curb stops were located for various customers. Work continues on the water painting project. Water quality reports have been mailed out to all residents. The new chlorine controller at Elkins Lane Pumping Station has been commissioned, and we look forward to better quality water with the new equipment. A second pressure control valve at Elkins Lane was repaired and put back in service. The water tower is back in service after being painted, and actually, we didn't do an update on that. Did we have any? Well, we'll ask that later. Several improvements are ongoing. Sewer department. Several sewer issues were reported, and the utility department responded with the sewer machine to do some cleaning. Metering. As always, the utility department works hand in hand with the utility billing department to ensure accurate utility charges. We troubleshoot faulty meters and work very hard to resolve any billing issues that occur. Electrical maintenance. Exposed wiring around Michelin Field was covered up after a resident voiced a concern. The wiring was abandoned at some point many years ago and was not a shock hazard. Fire hydrants. We have begun testing fire hydrants and have instituted a numerical tagging system. When completed, every hydrant will have a tag, and a new drawing will reference all the locations. Every hydrant will be documented as tested and functional. The utility staff has been extremely busy providing quality water, reliable electricity, working streetlights, and functional fire hydrants. As always, it is a pleasure to serve all our residents, and we strive to provide prompt service around the clock. A reminder to all residents, if you have a water, sewer, or electric emergency, you can call Milltown Police Dispatch at 732-828-2100, extension 0 for service at any time. For non-emergency situations, like reporting a street light out or fixing a leaking fire hydrant, you can call the utility office, or you can now report non-emergency problems on the borough website. The utility office extension, by the way, is 137. If you have any questions about water or electric service or your water or electric bill, please call 732-828-2100, extension 183. Report submitted by John Acker, Director of Utilities. Remember to check with Channel 15 and milltownnewjersey.org for updated information. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have the Department of Public Works and Recycling, chaired by Councilwoman Dorian Gerber.
Thank you, Council President. Along with all regular curbside collections, Public Work has the following report. The library sink has been repaired. Trimming has taken place behind the library. Also, they took out some vegetation, old stuff. They're going to plant some new stuff in front of the library facing Joyce Kilmer and West Church. The Pardon tennis courts have been trimmed and cleared. A new net was installed. Public Works excavated an area for the rain garden, which was approximately 360 square foot at Mill Pond Park. This was the assistance for the Eagle Scout project. A fence has been repaired at Mill Pond Park. Public Works restored stone runoff area on an outfall pipe at Hill and Albert. This is as per stormwater regulations. Public Works assisted the Recreation Department by moving SAC supplies and equipment from Joyce Kilmer to Parkview for the upcoming school year. There was a broken sprinkler lines were repaired at both Michelin and Little League fields. Through a shared service agreement with the Milltown Board of Education, the Public Works staff has delivered and spread playground safety material at the Joyce Kilmer and Parkview playgrounds. A stormwater lid and failing road has been repaired on West Church Street. Street lining, crosswalk lining, and curb painting has taken place. This will be ongoing until completion. Street sweeping is ongoing. Attention, all residents, bulk collections, including metal, electronics, and non-metal bulk must be placed curbside on the correct days. Correct days are posted on the website. Also, you can call 732-828-2100, extension 136, if you have any questions. Please check Channel 15 and milltownnewjersey.org for DPW updates. And at Sharon's area, she has Celebrate National Drive Electric Week. This is September 14th through the 22nd. There are lots of benefits if you want to choose to go all electric. Transportation is the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions in New Jersey. Air pollution from vehicles impacts our air quality and also contributes to the climate change. Be the solution. Make the switch to electric vehicles. No harmful emissions, cheaper to drive because you don't need to go to a gas station. 40-plus vehicle models are now available. That's increased from like even 5 years ago. There is no 6.6% New Jersey sales tax. You get up to $7,500 federal tax break. And there are now over 875. They did the survey, of course. I told them we don't have any in Milltown. They sent a survey around. So we found out 875 plus. There's some that are not active yet, but they're installed in New Jersey that are accessible for charging stations, right in East Brunswick, right North Brunswick. And there's a driveelectricweek.org has locations if you go on that website. So it is a growing charging network, and just in case you're interested. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the Department of Environmental Health and Social Services, chaired by Councilman Randy Barkus.
Thank you, Council President. No report tonight?
Thank you. Lastly, we'll have the Department of Recreation, chaired by Councilman Richard Revelinsky.
Thank you, Council President Dixon. Dorian, that's good to hear about the electric charging stations. I was contemplating getting myself an electric motorcycle and concerned where I'm going to charge it around town. Recreation report. SAC reminders. School year SAC is up and running. If you are still in need of before or after school care, please contact the SAC office / rec department. Please do not contact the schools. We are a separate program. As a reminder, the SAC payments are due on the 25th of the month prior. The 25th of the month prior is when your SAC payments are due. Recreation and SAC departments will be introducing Community Pass. This is an exciting time. We will launch this fall. All registrations and payments for SAC and Recreation will be able to be done online. Once fully operational, the SAC office will contact all registrants via email with instructions on setting up their family accounts. Recreation and pool information. The pool season was great. Although we had a lot of rain, it was a great summer. Thank you for all of our members, staff, and residents that joined in the fun. We look forward to another great season in 2020. Fall soccer is set to start this Saturday, September 14th at Albert Avenue Field. Fundamental Fours T-ball will begin on Saturday, September 21st at Albert Avenue. The registration deadline for T-ball is September 10th. Please join us for the September 11th Remembrance Service at the American Legion Pavilion at 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 11th. And please do bring a candle with you. Fall Adult Yoga will begin on Monday, September 16th. Mondays and Wednesdays. There are some Thursday classes. Registration forms are online and available down at the rec department as well. Adult volleyball began tonight. However, if you would like to register, there is still room. Men's basketball is set to start up tomorrow, Tuesday, September 10th. Fall tennis is set to begin September 17th. Coming in the fall of 2020, we will be introducing Fundamental Fours flag football and Fundamental Four Flyers cheerleading for 4-year-olds. Look for upcoming details in the spring. Please note that the recreation programs are subject to cancellation at any time by the Board of Education as the school functions take precedence. We will try our best to reschedule as soon as possible. Thank you for your cooperation. Please note the Recreation Committee will resume meetings on September 18th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on, we now next have old business. Does any member of the council have any old business to bring before the council?
Yes, I do have some old business. I'm proud to say that we finally have our final copy, which I'll send to the mayor and council. This hard printed copy will go to Ralph Jazanowski. It's the pedestrian safety demonstration project, which is the complete streets, but it gives many more recommendations to continue on throughout the borough, so I'll make sure he gets that copy. Number two, I'm so thankful that we always have the forum on before election, and it reruns. I still am very dissatisfied that the council meetings, I get complaints all the time, why aren't they on Channel 15? I think we should pick 2 times, 10 a.m., 6 p.m., just show them twice a day, in the morning, 1 at night, and show the reruns of the council meetings. And I don't understand how we could put the forum on, get it recorded, and we're not doing that with the council meetings. Not everybody has YouTube. Seniors have cable at the senior center. They wish to watch that, that's their choice. It shouldn't be our choice to eliminate it. And I never voted to eliminate this council meeting to be not showing up like it was in the past. The last 2 years, I'm very disappointed, and I'm really getting tired of the complaints. And I told them I would make sure I bring it up last meeting, but I wasn't here. So I'm bringing it up this meeting. When are the council meetings going to be rebroadcasted for those to watch in town? Because not everybody's on Vios, and if they choose to go to a convenience place, American Legion, to watch it, they can. If they want to go to another place in town that has cable vision, they can go watch it if they want. They can request it if they choose to do so, or watch it at a friend's house. Right now, they can't watch anything, and that's not right. Just like paying your bill online. You can't tell everybody to go pay your bill online. There's some people that don't have any computers at home or smartphones either. So, therefore, I don't understand. Can you give us an insight on when you're going to have this rebroadcast? No. But you can do the forum, which I think is totally wrong and unacceptable.
Who's the liaison to the cable TV committee?
You were last year, and it was off. And this year,
who is it this year?
It doesn't matter. We're the council, we're the governing
just-
body.
I'm
We
just
vote on
asking.
this all together. Councilman Revelinsky.
Oh, okay,
But
so
we
we
vote
I am-
on this.
All right,
so
we're not
we
here to
can
argue.
have that,
I'm just
a
letting you
meeting
know.
about that.
I am the liaison, and in fact, when we had our utility subcommittee meeting that was broadcast, I asked the same question, why aren't they on there? I, in fact, switched back from another provider back to Cablevision so that I could see the meetings again, because I know my kids enjoy seeing me up here. Hey, guys. At least sometimes, if they're still up. And I was disappointed, and I kept checking and saying, okay, maybe it's not today. All right, check tomorrow. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's not today. And I come to find out that it's only during the council meetings that they're broadcast live, which I think is wrong. I don't remember ever being approached about changing the broadcast schedule, ever being asked about it. I don't remember ever passing a resolution up here to change it. So I'd like to see it go back to the way it was. So Good point,
An
Dorian.
opinion, something that can be addressed by council. Is there any other old business to come before council? If not, new business. Does any member of the council have any new business to bring before council?
Yes, I just want everyone to know, because I wasn't here at the last meeting, I was asked by Ed DeFiglio from Jersey Waterworks, which is a state committee which I'm a member of since 2015, to represent the Borough of Milltown and the Lower Raritan watershed at the One Water Summit, which is a national conference next week from the 18th, 19th, and 20th. I do have a sponsor who is supporting me, and I'm very thrilled to represent the town, very thrilled to represent the Lower Raritan watershed, and I was thrilled to get the call, and I just said, let me go for it. It's growing every year. The One Water Conference talks about water quality and every aspects of water, watersheds, also funding sources, and also learning about the other states throughout the nation and what they're doing. And Austin, Texas is huge on green design, green infrastructure, stormwater management, and it's a real trendy place. So I'm looking forward to the trip. I've never been there, and look forward to it next week. I get to be a delegate and speak on behalf of our town and Lower Raritan, so I'm thrilled.
Is there any other new business to come before the council?
Yes, actually, congratulations, Councilwoman Kerber, that's great. It's quite an honor, good for you. And I hope you'll give us a full report on how it goes when you come back.
I sure will.
Councilwoman Kerber and I are the liaisons to the Revitalization Committee, so I just wanted to let the town know that the Milltown Day is coming up on October 5th, and also be the first, I'm going to email everyone tomorrow with a formal invitation, but to invite the mayor and the council, which I'm sure we will all be there. On Milltown Day, it goes from 9 to 3, and so we're looking forward to it. The rain date is October 6th.
Okay, very good. Any other new business come before the council?
Yeah, just one more thing. As Councilman Legati spoke about earlier, there was an emergency last night over on Main Street. I was on site, and I just want to congratulate the fire department, the police department, and the first aid squad. They were professional and dedicated in keeping all the residents safe and the businesses in the affected area. So kudos to everyone involved. They did a fantastic job keeping everyone safe. So nice job, guys.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other new business?
Two things from me. The first is that actually last night when I heard the siren go off at 6:30, I thought, man, it's still light out. And then I realized that it wasn't the siren for the 7 o'clock whistle, but rather alerting the town that we had an issue over there on Main Street. I found out from a neighbor that the road was closed. I immediately got a little bit concerned, worrying about what could result in causing a situation like this. And my heart went out immediately thinking of the ice cream depot on Main Street and possibly a kid's ball rolled in the street. And there's a planter out there that I've worked on with my children, and I'll tell you, those people fly by. They screaming down Main Street, well over 30 miles an hour, very close to the curb, and it's scary, especially with a business that serves so many young people. I was glad that when I arrived to find out that A, no one got hurt, and it wasn't as bad of a situation that I thought, and to see all of our emergency services working together. But it raised the question, should we consider lowering the speed on Main Street? This is a walking town.
I agree.
People in the morning, people in the afternoon flying through town while residents are trying to get their kids off to school. And you know what? Sometimes it's the residents dropping those kids off that are flying too. But I get nervous. Riva Avenue, I believe, is now 30 miles an hour outside of Milltown. Fresh Ponds is, I think, 35. They've dropped those speed limits down. And I think people just have a tendency to go way too fast through Milltown. So I'm hoping that this council can take the necessary steps and we can look at possibly dropping that down to 25 on Main Street. I don't think if you're going across town or through town as a resident, you can object too much to going a little bit slower to make sure it's safe for our kids.
That would be mine. I'll talk to the police chief and see what we can find out.
I wasn't sure with it being a county road, Nick, if we
Neither am
could.
I.
I
So
get shared, yeah.
figured
We have to call the
let me throw it out there.
I'll talk to the chief.
Second, a resident approached me recently. He's trying to set up a travel basketball team within the borough, for borough kids only. And he's hit a couple of hurdles. And first, he approached the recreation department. Rec said, well, unfortunately, we'd have to either run it and have all the insurance and charge the fees, et cetera, and we still have to pay for the school. So this particular resident went over to the school only to find out that it's $35 an hour for Parkview and $60 an hour to rent gym space. Needless to say that he was frustrated because the cost of renting the gym for an hour, hour and a half, when his tax dollars already go to paying for that facility, is limited. It was frustrating, and not only that, but cost prohibitive to start a program, because paying for that gym space as well as jerseys, insurance, and everything else that goes into having a one-team travel team or one age group travel team for basketball in this town made it seem like, quite frankly, it would never happen. So he's asked for our support and to see what we can do. So I will throw that over to Councilwoman Mayer as the liaison to the Board of Education to see what we can do, because I got to agree with him. If our tax dollars are already paying for it, why are we not able to use those facilities? And on a side note, he's informed me that he really wants to keep it in Milltown, but there are neighboring communities that do have free access for these types of programs and for the recreation programs throughout their schools, and they don't charge the kids for it. So I think that's something that, you know, we only get so much bang for our buck here in town, and if it's something we can do, we should definitely try to do it. That's it for me.
Thank you.
I have one more thing, sorry. Last month, I did go to the Board of Education meeting, and I had Sarah from Rutgers University. She is from North Jersey, and she came down and gave a presentation on the school food waste program, which I attended on June 18th, and they will be implementing a shared table, which allows any student to pick up any sealed food, untouched food, or drinks at any time if they choose to be, you know, wanting to drink or eat something, instead of having this go into the garbage. Because most kids, that's what they do, or there's certain foods they don't eat, but they get it on their plate at lunchtime. So instead of doing that, they're just going to offer it at no cost to any student who wants to help themselves. So this is an initiative through Middlesex County, Elijah's Promise, the Middlesex County Food Bank, Feeding Middlesex County, as well as Rutgers University. So this is going to be implemented throughout the county. Some schools already started implementing it, like South Brunswick. East Brunswick's pushing for it, Highland Park, and several others that attended the meeting, the training. So I just want to let you know, we're also going to be included as one of the schools.
Thank you. Is there any other new business? If not, we're going to move on to audience comments. Public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. The council will respect the public's time by refraining any comment until the speaker is finished. It should be further noted that public comment portion of our meeting is not structured as a question and answer session. If a member of the public has questions they seek answers to, an appointment can be made with the appropriate office during regular business hours or with a member of council during their allotted office meeting hours. Please state your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. With that, is there any council questions?
Good evening, Alan Gardner for Fern Place, and president of the Lawrenceburg Watershed Partnership, which has an event this coming Saturday, which is our 17th annual Water Wheels bicycle ride. And we start just up the hill here at 85 Washington Avenue, cycle all the way down through East Brunswick, South Brunswick, down to the Nature Center, which is just outside the watershed. Have a break there, and then we'll come back through East Brunswick and through North Brunswick. So we've covered the only part of the watershed we don't cover is New Brunswick, and back to here. It's about a 3-hour cycle with a break in the middle. 26 miles total. It's quite a nice, healthy thing to do, and we don't all necessarily have to go at the same speed. So if there's a faster group, they can go together, and a slower group, they can too. So please come join us. And it starts at 9 a.m. with registration from 8 a.m. And if you'd like to contact Michael Shikazian ahead of time, he's the leader of it at 732-828-3275. You can pay ahead of time and it only costs you $5 instead of $10. One other thing, if I might comment on, Councilwoman Kerber mentioned the issues of electric cars, and I certainly appreciate that. I've been waiting for an all-electric car so that is efficient and such that I can get rid of my big car and do that. But in the meantime, I would recommend that people consider buying what I did last year, is buying an electric mower. I have found this to be a much quieter engine than a gasoline engine, and I'm not putting all those fumes into the air, and I'm paying a little more electricity to the utility here to charge the battery. So it's very good. I would encourage it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Karen Bradford, 17 School Street, Milltown, New Jersey. I just wanted to...
Can you just repeat your name while you're on the microphone, because it didn't pick up?
All right. Karen Bradford,
Thank you.
17 School Street, Milltown, New Jersey. I've been in contact with Councilman Kerber. We discussed the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. I am 150% for it. I was just going down Riva Avenue today to pick up my friend, Mrs. Schlau, who lives on Scott Avenue, and there was somebody coming up Riva, and I bet you they were doing like 40 miles an hour. And I'm disgusted with the amount of people that are coming through this town speeding. So I just wanted to say my piece. Also, in addition, the lights with, you know, as far as crossing the street. A couple weeks ago, I went up to Legends to get a sandwich. One person stopped, one, to let me go. So, you know what? I mean, I wasn't hit, but one person stopped to let me go.
That's very I've seen that at least a half a dozen. I saw some kid that almost was hit when he was riding a bicycle. He pushed it, he started, the one car stopped, but the cars coming northbound didn't, and it's very dangerous, and maybe you know, I'm sure you've talked to the chief about it, but I've seen that at least a half a dozen times. It's very, you know, you think that you're safe, and people do not stop.
You're not.
Unfortunately, you can't fix stupidity, so.
Right. But it's
Well, I
it's
wanted to
dangerous.
say, so if you can push for 25, I worked in South River, for South River Public Schools for almost 30 years, and they had 25. You know what? 25 is 25, because you know they're gonna go over, but at least if we bring it back to 25. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
John Collins, 39 Southbrook Drive, Milltown, New Jersey. Mike, I was wondering about that sewer project. Can we get a special state appropriation for that? Because I know they get that for the lead in the water pipes up in Newark and Belleville. Is it possible, you know, we could reduce the impact on the residents?
Unfortunately, the bulk of the grants for water and sewer projects have been converted to a low-interest loan program in the state of New Jersey, which is partially funded by EPA. So as a result, years ago, there used to be programs or grants were available, and now they've put into a low-interest loan, which is eventually and essentially a low-interest savings, because you, instead of paying prime rates, you're paying half about what prime is. So, but that's a possibility. So I spoke to the administrator today, and we're looking into it.
Yeah, that would be a good thing for the residents, especially with interest rates heading lower, so, you know, we can do that.
Understand.
And I want to thank Councilman Revelinsky, that the traveling team, Rangers, we used to sponsor that, and we probably could this year too, also. And I'd like to thank Councilman Kerber for comments on the open, you know, meetings and the televised, I saw it tonight, it's on TV, thank you for having it broadcast, because it's really important to the residents, and a lot of residents watch it. A lot more residents than you think watch it, but I don't understand why it was stopped in the first place, and nobody can give me an explanation. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the arrogance of Mr. Einbinder, I don't know if he made himself Joe Goebbels of the cable channel, but that's his problem.
Any other comments from the audience? If not, we're going to move on to council comment. Does any member of the council have any comments?
Yes, I just have one. In terms of Twitter, I have a Twitter account I created many years ago, and I decided to follow the Complete Streets. The main thing with Complete Streets is throughout the nation, it's a national initiative. That's one thing they brought up this week was you need to slow people down and reduce the speed in your towns, especially walkable communities. So that's why the conversation came up. I believe that we should reduce it to 25 miles, and I'm thinking from Oaks Boreum Light all the way to Kuthla Avenue. That's the stretch where they walk most of the time. And there's many people, many pedestrians walking nowadays. You see them all throughout the day, not just going to stores, but they're going to school, going to work, or just walking for exercise. Runners, bicyclists, so it's increased. We've had an influx of new homeowners. Still, houses are being sold and closed, so people love this town for that reason, and that's why they come to Milltown. And I think that should be a strong consideration between the county discussion, the chief, and the rest of us to consider this for a new change. And you've got more development coming up between South Brunswick, North Brunswick, and East Brunswick. Eventually, they're going to find Main Street to go down, cut through. There was also a discussion, Kuthla Avenue, possibly, many people brought this up before, making that a one-way out towards East Brunswick and making East Brunswick turn on Southbrook or Albert Avenue. I'm not sure if that's a consideration or ever considered, but maybe you want to take that up with the chief too.
Are doing everything possible
Okay.
for Kuthlau Avenue.
Yeah.
Increased police presence
Sure.
there. We're getting
I've seen.
quotes on speed bumps, which we can't guarantee at this point right now. But the police chief and we're working on some details for Kuthlau.
I know one of the issues with diverting the traffic and making Colthau one way is that the roads that are parallel to Colthau, you're gonna wind up diverting the traffic that way, and a lot of those are not rated for heavy trucks. If you get a dump truck that's going down that way, they're not rated for those. I think, you know, the biggest issue that the residents on Colthau face probably is, I saw a post the other day on Facebook, and I don't go on Facebook much, and other than maybe once a week or something, just to see if anyone posted pictures that are cute and like them. A gentleman had I think it was the 5th mirror or 4th mirror that he's had broken off.
No, according to that gentleman, it was his
trying to-
35th mirror.
35th.
Which is an exaggeration.
Okay, so it wasn't the 3rd or 5th, it was 35th. Point being that, you know, we should really try and look at what we can do as a town to accommodate some of the residents over there. If there's a vacant lot or something that we can try and work with people to get some extra parking so they're not on Colthau, I think that would be good, as well as making sure they're not speeding. But
I saw the same post, and unfortunately, I said it once already, I'll say it again. You can't fix stupidity. People don't slow up to let the next person through. Everyone knows Kuthlau is a narrower street in this borough.
Right.
People are not considerate of each other. You know, the police department can't fix that. You know, you can complain all you want, one-way speed bumps. We've increased the amount of officers there that are doing radar. We're looking into a speed bump. I mean, it's in the preliminary stages right now. I mean, we're not gonna catch every single person. We're not gonna be able to do everything, you know, hire a policeman to sit there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not realistic. You know, you can't fix stupid people. You can't fix bad drivers. You know, it's gonna happen here and there, and I'm gonna work with the chief on trying to reduce it as much as possible. But, you know, we're not gonna catch everyone.
yeah, I'm glad we actually had this discussion, because now I'm on to something for our attorney. Red light cameras. Has there been rulings on those recently about validity, invalidity of the tickets that are associated with those? Because in my mind, instead of increasing officer presence constantly, you know, maybe a speed camera that can issue tickets, if there is such a thing in existence already, for an area like Colthau, or that could be moved around town and get people and tell them, hey, you know, slow down.
They would be fixed, they wouldn't be moved around town.
Okay.
Those cameras. They were I don't wanna say all the rage, but they were popular for a while. I haven't heard of any towns going to the red light system in a little bit of time. I think there are some flaws in it. I would have to go back and look at some of the cases. I think there's some unreported cases where some municipalities' cameras were any challenge to it would be a successful challenge because they were not a fixed period of time that could be demonstrated by the company that ran them.
That happened in East Brunswick on Route 18 and Tice's Lane. Those
Right.
cameras were deemed,
And they were taken out.
they were taken out.
Taken out. I know it happened in a
those
couple of other Middlesex County municipalities. So there are clearly flaws to the system. Overall, whether they can improve traffic flow, I haven't heard the answer to that. I just know that there is some case law out there that challenges have been successful to kind of defeat the purpose of having them.
Okay. My worst intersection is Washington Avenue, over by the post office. I see kids always go, because they don't want to cross at the corner, because if someone's coming down, they turn too quick, you get hit. If you're crossing from the Lion over to the Speedway and someone's not looking because there's a car in the middle lane to turn left, you're in danger. It's a risky intersection, and 90% of the people I see crossing around there cross right in front of the post office over to the American Legion lot, and it's scary because people are not slowing down coming down that hill. In fact, at the bottom of the hill is where they're typically going the fastest. So that to me is if we're gonna focus on some areas in town that really need addressing, that and around the schools, I think we're onto something here. This is good.
That's not even a crosswalk there.
No.
Council President, I have two comments.
Go for it.
I would like to congratulate the rec department, Julie and her staff, for a successful summer at the pool. I was specifically impressed with the Labor Day festivities, sorry. I thought it was a great idea, having all those games and things. I know the weather didn't cooperate 100%, maybe that kept some people away, but I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. I thought that was a great idea. I wish them all the success for coming years to do that more often. The other thing is, I was at a baptism yesterday, and I'd like to thank Councilman Farkas for getting down to that emergency on Main Street. Councilman Revelinsky, I didn't realize you went down too, but thank you as well. I was not in the area, but I'd like to thank those two councilmen for going and making sure that the borough was covered on our end. That's it.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Because if not, Mr.
Oh, me, are you ready for me?
Yes, we are
Claire's
going
not
to
here.
executive session. I need a motion.
All right, I make a motion that the resolution to enter into executive session be approved by council, and the council will enter executive session immediately following the vacation of the council chambers by the public. Council reserves the right to take action upon returning to the public session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber?
Aye.
Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Council President, we have 6 ayes.
With that, we'll go into executive session, and we will ask that the council chambers be cleared of